And we are back. You saw the thumbnail, you saw the title. You know what we're about to do. We are about to get at it and talk about this Trump interview with Dr. Phil that happened 3 weeks before the debate, which was just about a week ago. So anyway, my name is Jason. Thank you so much for tuning in on this evening. I appreciate all of you spending your Monday evening, Monday afternoon, your time with me. It means a lot, so I appreciate you. Thank you so much to everybody who's already a part of the best live chat on the planet. They've jumped into the live chat. They're already saying hello. They're already chopping it up and that. You want to be a part of that. You want to know how can you be a part of the best live chat on the planet? It's very simple. Hit the like button and jump into the chat. Thank you so much for tuning in. I see Terry in the building. Good to see you. Hi there from Colorado. Sunny and it's hot here today. We got, again, the moderator with the mostest, the transplanted Texan. Good to see you. Grace and peace. All right. Got KJB Bible Believer. The link works. I'm glad to see that. Susie Q in the house. Thank you so much. All button and the bell so you get all the notifications. Thank you so much for reminding us of that. And then we got my new brother from another, present but not perfect. Good to see you, brother. Grace and peace to you. Thank you so much for tuning in on this evening. So yesterday, the dumpster fire of all dumpster fires yesterday, we were going to review the Biden post-debate interview with George Stephanopoulos, and that went pretty well. The link is in the description here if you want to watch that video, but I also did a reaction to that, and that video is in my playlist as well. Some reason or another, I don't know why, the Donald Trump interview with Dr. Phil that happened 3 weeks prior, they took it down. So while we were reviewing it yesterday, and I thought we were being respectful, they took it down. And I got an email this morning saying that it was Dr. Phil who took down the video. So, that was unfortunate because I really think I would think that they would probably want to be the team that would get their content out the most, but I don't know. I don't understand how this thing all works. To me, I think you'd want to get your content out there. You'd want to be exposed, especially being the fact that so few people had actually seen the video. Now, if you're wondering about the video that I'm referring to, it's down in the description as well, so you can go check that out. Tonight, we are going to react to that video. Let me take that back. We're actually going to react to the audio. So I had to do a little bit of transforming to make the video applicable that I can actually do it here. I had intended to live stream solely on Rumble, and I spent a lot of this afternoon trying to get Rumble to work properly. It doesn't send out notifications to people. And I was testing it out, trying it out, doing test streams, everything like that. Nobody was getting notifications. So that's why we're back on YouTube. I'm still streaming it to Rumble. So if you're on Rumble, you're getting it. You're seeing it there as well. I wasn't certain that I would only be able to stream to Rumble and that everybody would be notified that I was streaming, and I don't want to be over here talking to myself. Even though I would be talking to Lib Travis, that'd be cool, okay, out there in New Jersey. Grace and peace to you. I'd be talking to my good friend Fred. Good to see you, brother, as well. Of course, I'd be talking to y'all, but, hey, I want to talk to everybody if I could. So that's why we're back on YouTube. So we are still streaming it to Rumble. So I know a lot of people said they would try Rumble out, so you can do that. And I should be able to hopefully get your comments and such like that. But I did want to make sure we could all have this dialogue and listen to and have some feedback, some back and forth, if you will, about this interview that Donald Trump did with Dr. Phil about 3 weeks ago, give or take. And I think it's interesting because sadly, you're not going to be able to see all of the facial movements and all that kind of stuff like that. Because like last night, we were all bugging out because Dr. Phil's laptop is sitting precariously on the edge of the table like it's about to fall. That kept everybody engaged, I will say that. But they took it down. So, it is their content. But I did want to just go over that. So that's what we're going to do on this evening. So I appreciate everybody who stopped by. I appreciate everybody who's liked the video, who's commented on it, and all that kind of good jazz. I do want to say one more time that I really do appreciate all of you all for stopping by these live streams, engaging in the chats, being a part of the best live chat on the planet. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. It does show and encourage me that you all find value in what I'm doing. So I do want to say thank you very much for that. I see Grace Rodriguez in the building. Good to see you. Thank you so much. And for your very kind email as well. Not everybody emails management is sending management a bad note. So I do want to say that. Oh man, I didn't see retired in the building. Good to see you. Grace and peace to you as well, friend. So tonight, that's what we're going to go over. We're going to go over the interview. Now you'll see, and this is going to be an audio heavy video. So you'll see my smiling face, of course, but this is going to be a very audio heavy video. Just to, again, I don't know why they were being rotten like that. So anyway, with no further ado, let's get at it.
It's a psychological interview that you're doing. You're sort of being my psychiatrist. I've watched your show a lot over the years. People break down, oh, they start crying on the show. I said, that's never happening to me.
There's an addiction to revenge. Nobody would fault you. You can say, it ends here, it ends with me. What do you say to yourself when the crowds aren't cheering? What is the hardest, darkest moment?
I don't think I've ever said this on air before.
So, a lot of you all have already seen this part.
Last week, 12 jurors deliberated for 2 days and rendered a verdict finding Donald Trump guilty on all 34 charges of falsifying business records, leading to an unprecedented felony conviction of not only a former president, but also the front-runner nominee for the Republican Party. Donald Trump has professed his innocence and defiantly, outside the courtroom, called the trial a disgrace, rigged, and claimed the real verdict will happen when the presidential votes are counted on November 5th. I traveled to Mar-a-Lago to sit down one-on-one with President Trump for an unfiltered, no-holds-barred interview. And I promise you, no topic was off limits. But I don't endorse candidates, so I want to sit down with President Biden and Kennedy as well. Because everybody needs to vote, and not just vote, but make informed votes.
It's an honor to be with you. Let me just say, it's great looking at that logo. I've seen that sucker a long time.
Yeah, you look well.
I feel good.
Do you?
I feel good. No pressure.
Yeah.
It's nice to lead a life of no pressure whatsoever.
Yeah.
Corruption, surrounded by corrupt judges and corrupt politicians. Other than that, there's no pressure.
Well, you know, you and I talked the other night, and
I did want to just start out noticing the contrast. And you'll notice if you go back and watch my Biden video, or just watch the Biden video in whole. Literally the whole video of George Stephanopoulos interviewing Joe Biden is about his health, is about his mental faculties and whether or not he has his everything is in place. That's the entire video. Now, sure, they try sprinkling some other truths, but really right here, you see here, for lack of a better term, nobody's questioning whether or not Donald Trump is healthy. Whether or not they believe he's moral, whether or not they think he's a liar, But nobody's arguing whether or not he's actually in his right mind and able to actually do the task that's laid out in front of him as a potential president. Just something I noticed, just something to pick up. Let's keep going.
in trial sciences for a lot of my career, and so I have a particular interest in the dynamics of the trial setting. You're fighting this fight and standing up for the rights of due process and fighting against prosecutorial misconduct and prosecutorial abuse.
You know, it was interesting when you called the other day about doing an interview. A lot of people want to do interviews, and I don't just agree to them very easily. But I've always had great respect for you. I watch your show, some of the real good ones and some of the less intellectual ones, and that's okay too. But it's always been, you've always been very special. And I knew that you were, in some form, very much involved with trials. And I found it to be very interesting that you would take this up. It's a very important thing.
Well, I wanted to, and I know that there was some news coming out of Georgia today, there was some news coming out of Florida today, that they're stepping back from this. And
very good news.
I called for the other day, and I don't know if you saw it, but on Merritt Street Media, where I now do my show, I called for President Biden to stop all of this now. And of course, a lot of people said, oh, he can't stop it, it's a state case. Well, okay, that's an explanation for stupid people, but for people that understand how this works behind the scenes and all, I say the same thing. They need to stop this. They need to stop pursuing you. Since you started your campaign in 2015 to run for office, there have been so many attempts to get you off the board even before you started your campaign. Then once you were in office, 2 impeachment opportunities. They changed the rules to try to make it high crimes and misdemeanors if there were business conflicts, and in this case,
Never ends.
it seems to be never ending. And that is a distraction to you. And I really wonder how that affects you. What do you say to yourself about that? Because it seems to never be ending.
It's a never-ending thing. There's a term that I know you've heard many times. It's called Trump derangement syndrome, and nobody's ever seen anything like it. In one way, we drive them totally crazy because we're doing the right thing. You wonder, why would somebody want to have open borders where people are coming in from jails, prisons, where they're coming in from mental institutions, and as you know better than anyone else, they're coming in, they're releasing the people all over the world, not just South America, from mental institutions and jails and prisons, and they're terrorists coming in by the thousands. They're pouring into our country. And who would allow this? You know, it's common sense, not a conservative thing. If they would devote that same skill and talent to making America great again, it would really be a wonderful thing. But in the meantime, we're beating them. You know, you mentioned I got impeached twice, and I won twice very easily, very quickly. We had great support from the Republican Party. I have all these cases. All my life, I didn't have any problem. And all of a sudden, within a matter of months, I end up with 4 cases. Now, of course, it's from the White House and the Department of Justice. They totally control the state case. In fact, I'm not allowed to even be talking about certain aspects of it because I have a gag order. Think of it. I'm the Republican nominee. I was the president, and I'm leading the current Democrat by a lot. And I have a gag order from a local judge that was appointed by the Democrat Party. A local judge. He's a local person. And he is appointed, and he put a gag order in me. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
While you're campaigning.
While I'm campaigning, like you just mentioned a question that I'm not allowed to talk about.
Right.
Can you imagine? I'm the Republican nominee, and I'm not allowed to talk because a local judge from New York, appointed by Democrats, said I can't talk about it. It's so unfair. And then he gives a jury charge. Nobody's ever heard of a charge like this. He gave instructions to the jury. And by the way, the jury happened to be in a location that was almost no Republicans. You understand that?
Yeah,
too?
it's 87-13 in the last 2 elections, Republican. And I know you can't talk about it. I'm not under a gag order. I do know that the number 3 person in the Department of Justice took a pay cut and went down in stature to go to a state job and become one of the lead prosecutors in this case. But yet they say, hey, Dr. Phil, why are you saying that President Biden needs to stop all of this? It's a state case. That's exactly why I'm saying it. Don't be naive, people. Understand that there's a power play going on here.
It's controlled by the White House and the DOJ, 100%.
You know, Gerard Baker wrote in Wall Street Journal today, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, what do we say to those people that are rejoicing over reducing law to the status of a weapon in the hands of the dominant political power? Because that's what's happening right now. It's become a weapon, and that's not what it's intended for. That's not what we need to be doing. I mean, let's let the people decide these, right?
That's right.
I do want to just jump in real quick because I've said this before multiple times that if this was not lawfare, if we were wrong, if the right-wing conspiracy, the conservative conspiracy, whatever, was wrong, then Joe Biden would handily be defeating Donald Trump. Do you think if the tables were turned and Biden was packing out arenas and Biden had all of this support, all of this groundswell, do you think they would even care about these cases at all? I don't think so, not one bit. The problem is that Joe Biden is very unpopular. Joe Biden does have some health issues that are being clandestinely held under the table, but everybody can see them. And they're very worried about this man. But I do want to they're going to jump into policy in a moment, but I just want to just add my little 2 cents to that. Let's keep it going. Let's go.
It's a very good statement in the Wall Street Journal. I read that this morning. And it's so true. I mean, it's so accurate. They've weaponized to a level. They are trying to affect the election by demeaning, hurting in any form. And by the way, I think after the election, the hatred's great enough that they'll go, but with much less enthusiasm. This is about November 5th, which I think is going to be the most important day in the history of our country. If we don't turn this around, we're not going to have a country left anymore.
Well, we're a country of laws, right? I mean, and that's what's made us so orderly. That's what's allowed us to progress forward. And there's something that are called hornbook laws or black letter law that is just, these things have just been around so long. And these were violated in your case, one right after the other. For example, you don't let someone that has been charged in the same case as someone else, and they made a plea deal and said, okay, I'm guilty of doing this, because they were intimidated into doing it. The lawyer in your case, we don't even need to speak his name, he bartered around out from under 65 years, looking at 65 years of imprisonment down to 3 years and 2 years on this case and a tax case. So went from 65 years down to 5 years in exchange for giving them testimony against you. That's not supposed to come in, but it did. Pecker making a deal, a non-prosecution agreement. That's not supposed to come in, but it did. That got into the jury box. They got to hear all of that. And so they say, well, you know, if we're not down here for the reasons they're saying, then we need an alternative explanation, which they're not allowed to get, because your expert witness that was going to come in and say, as a former chairman of the Election Commission, was going to say this was looked at, there's no issues here. They didn't allow that person to talk, to testify. And I'm looking at this saying, how is the jury supposed to solve this problem if they don't have all the pieces to the puzzle?
They wouldn't listen to him. They wouldn't talk to him. They didn't want to hear his testimony. They knew what he was going to say. He was going to say it was 100%. And very importantly, when they tell somebody, you're going to jail for 15 years unless you say bad things about this guy named Trump, right. Okay? Now, in all fairness, we know a lot of great people, but you don't know too many that would say, I'm not going to do what they want.
Yeah.
He goes up to somebody and they say, Dr. Phil, you're going to jail for 15 years unless you say bad things about Trump. And if you say the bad things, you're not going to jail at all. In fact, we're going to make you a hero. Or you're going to go for 3 months, or you're going to go for a short period of time. How many people are there that say, you know, I'm not going to do that? There have been people.
Yeah, that's right.
And those are, in my opinion, these are great people. What they've done to people that work for me is incredible. Yeah. Incredible. The threats, the taking of a gentleman who's been with me for years and telling me he's going to jail for 15 years unless they say, and he went back to jail a second time. Wow. I guess they didn't want him to testify. I don't know what happened exactly, but the threats that they made to this man, they've destroyed his life. These are fascists. You know, these are really bad people, Phil. But who's going to do it? You're going to jail for 15 years, or you're going to go for 30 days or 40 days, or you're going to go for no time, but you have to say bad things about Trump.
Yeah, and that's intimidation. And some of these people, you look at their age, you look at their health, and for some of it could be a death sentence. And so they make a deal, and that's what I talk about. That's what I mean when I say prosecutorial abuse.
I do want to stop right here. And I encourage you, please go check out the video so you can kind of see, you know, what they're talking about. It's just Phil and Donald Trump actually talking. But one of the things you heard during the Trump interference case here in Atlanta, Georgia, was that, oh, this case is so wonderful. This case is so solid because so many people have already pled out. And Dr. Phil just explained why people plead out. When you challenge a retiree who wants to go sit on the porch in a swing chair with his grandchildren, that he's going to go to jail, or he can fight this case, you know, and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend his name, or you can take this plea deal. Most people will say, hey, what's the plea deal? 30 days, a year, probation? I'm taking it. Because, I mean, you're not talking about people who have more years in front of them than behind. You're talking about people who have a lot more years behind them than they have before them. And like Phil just said here, if you put a 60-year-old person in some of these jails, you've basically signed their death warrant. It's over. It's a wrap. I mean, the amount of wear and tear it's going to take on their bodies is unfathomable. So that's just something to think about. So when you hear people say, oh, this case is so great because so many people have pled out, or so many people have taken plea deals, you kind of want to ask yourself, why did they do that? Okay, let's keep going.
Did anyone ever approach you and try to get you to make a deal, drop out of the race, make a deal here, we'll leave you alone?
No, they didn't, but I believe they would. If I would have offered that up, I think they know me well enough. I really do. But, if I didn't run, as an example, I would have never had any of these lawsuits. How about I get prosecuted on a person that I have no idea who she is? I have no idea who she is. I have to pay $91 million. And that judge was just as bad, just as corrupt, a corrupt judge. I have to pay $91 million to a woman. I have no idea who she is. She wrote a book and she made a statement in the book. And you know that case. That case is a disaster. And then but I have no idea who she is. And they said I did things. These people are corrupt and in some cases incompetent, but it's such an honor to have somebody like you see it and see it so clearly. And I knew that, I remember that years ago you were helping Oprah out and she was sued and it was having a big impact on her.
Mad cow.
And I thought it was great. And Oprah used to really like me. She was here many times. Yeah. She loved my key lime pie. We have key lime pie, and she loved a lot of things about Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. And Roger King, as you know.
Yeah, we were here for the funeral for Roger King.
Correct, long time ago. It's the only funeral we've ever had at Mar-a-Lago. I said, maybe we can do a new business here. Yeah. We'll operate as a funeral parlor. But it was one of the most beautiful funerals in the ballroom behind us. And he was a great guy. And Oprah's terrific. But once I announced I was running and I said, we have to have strong borders, we have to have this, we have to have that, we've sort of lost contact, as the expression goes. But I remember when you were very much involved in helping Oprah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's been time and time again. And that was another black letter law that you just don't do. The judge tells you, okay, you can testify, but I'm going to allow them to ask you about this person that you now owe $91 million. I'm going to allow them to ask you about this other case. I'm going to allow them to ask you about 10 contempt citations that I've given you. I'm going to allow them to ask about all that stuff. What does any of that have to do with the matters at hand? And the answer is zero. That gets into the jury box if you take the witness stand. Again, that is black letter law. You can't let in unrelated things that have more prejudicial impact than probative nature. That just doesn't happen, but it happened 1, 2, 3 things right in a row, right. And that gets into the jury box.
If you testify, they'll be able to ask you about all these different things. And by the way, if you say one thing if you say it was a beautiful day, as I remember it, and it was raining out, we're going to indict you for perjury.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I have a lot of lawyers that are friends and this and that. I had probably 25 guys over the course of a couple of months say, whatever you do, don't testify, because you'll say something that's a little bit off and you will be indicted for lying, for perjury. These are evil people. These are sick, evil people.
Oh, I would have thrown myself in front of your car to keep you from testifying.
No, I know. I wanted to so badly. And by the way, I would have loved to have testified about those things because it was so corrupt and so horrible. But he wouldn't have allowed me to answer the questions properly. No. And so I would have loved to have testified. I wanted to. I'm telling you, they had to hold me back. But every lawyer that came, they'd always start to say, by the way, I'm afraid of yours, don't testify. And they saw what he was doing. They can ask you about like anything. They can do nothing to do with this case. All of these outside things. And it was really an unfair trial. There's a very brilliant judge in Florida that's holding the government. It looks like, she's looking into what happened because, they raided Mar-a-Lago. Right. And they took stuff out by the satchel. They took bags and bags of stuff. And I said, what are they taking? Are they saying what they're taking? Because they can add things. Yeah. They can add the nuclear codes in there. They say, hey, here are the nuclear codes. And this was all stuff that under the Presidential Records Act, I'm allowed to do. By the way, Biden was totally exonerated. Now, I'm not sure I want that kind of an exoneration. They basically said he's incompetent to stand trial, but he could be president. Think of that. He's not sharp enough, got no memory, got no this, got no that. He's incompetent. Basically, they're saying he can't stand trial due to incompetence, but he can run for president. What's going on?
Yeah.
What are we missing here?
Yeah, it makes everybody uncomfortable about that state of affairs. And what I was concerned about with everything that happened in this New York trial is one of the big myths is that the burden of proof lies with the prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
That is the law.
That is the law.
But I can tell you, after years and years and years of trial, the truth is that the jury sits there and says, I'm looking at all this, and if we're not down here for the reason they say we're down here, somebody needs to give me an alternative explanation of why we are down here. So if we're not down here because of what the prosecutors are telling us,
Right.
then what's the alternative story? What's the alternative explanation? And when you get muzzled in the way that this judge muzzled this case, they're sitting there saying, what's the rest of the story? You're not allowed to testify because you're in jeopardy if you do. They let all of this other stuff in that should never get into the jury box. And so, the scales get tipped. And it gets very, very difficult to get even one juror because there's not an alternative story that if you could tell without being in peril, if you can tell without being intimidated, it would be a very different situation. The burden legally is on the prosecution, but logically
You're
with
guilty
the jury,
until proven innocent.
that's
basically what
exactly the
happened.
truth.
I can tell you that's the truth with me.
That's how it
what
plays
happened.
out. And I did a focus group about this when I did a show on this on Merritt Street, and I had 250 people in, did a focus group, and I said, and overwhelmingly the people were in your favor. But I found those that had questions, and I said, what is your question? They said, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the other
understand
part
that.
of it.
I'm sitting here, and you've asked me indirectly a couple of questions. They're so simple to answer. I'd love to.
Yeah.
And yet, if I do, this guy's he's willing to throw you in jail, okay? This is an appointed judge, acting. He's an acting judge, appointed. And he's willing to throw you, and he's so conflicted. It's so sad. But you do things for your country. And I view it, I think if my country weren't involved, because people say, the two questions, I get these questions from very tough guys like you, the biggest guys on Wall Street, people
Tough
that you
guys.
read about, but they're tough men and women. But I have the question asked often is number one question I get, how do you stand it? How do you do it? How do you get up in the morning and put your clothing on and go to work? I do get that because people don't envy it. And the other one I get is, will they do it again? Meaning, will they cheat? Will they do it again? Will it happen again?
Well, I have a different question than.
Before he jumps in there, I do want to point out, notice how Trump, whether you like him or not, you have to admit, he is not doing this because he has some grand idea that he has to be president. Sure, I know somebody's about to thunder thumb in the comment section. Well, he's a liar. He's only out after himself. Well, where's he saying that? Where is he saying that he's out for himself? Because we saw that with Biden. Biden is absolutely 100% about his self, his own agenda, his own mission. He basically said that. I run the world, he said. So just note for me when you hear Trump say that he's doing this for his own personal self-aggrandizement, he's doing this for his own ego boost, what all these things that people keep saying that he does, just point out when he actually says it. I just would love to actually roll the tape back and actually hear it. Maybe I'll make a short out of it or something. But let me know when he actually says that he's doing this for his own self.
That how question. My question is why. I understand how. I know you got a thick skin. You're not one of those people that's afflicted with the need to be loved by strangers. I get that.
I think that's true.
My question is not how do you do it. My question is why do you
Here it
do
comes.
it? Why do you, 'cause let's face it. I mean, you're a billionaire, you got a great family, you're a very dedicated father. People may not see this in you a lot because you keep that kind of private. But my question to you is why do you subject yourself to this?
So there's a movement in this country. It's called MAGA. And Biden's always fighting it. We will stop MAGA. MAGA is Make America Great Again. And we were doing, I had an administration that was a tremendous success. Even enemies, we had the greatest economy in history. We had the best job numbers in history. That's why I'm doing so well with the black and Hispanic vote. They had the best job numbers they've ever had. We were doing things that were incredible. And I was going through Russia hoax. I was going through the impeachment stuff, all of that. And, you know, in one way, I jokingly said, somebody said, can you imagine what he could have done? Because I had one of the most successful presidencies, and yet I was constantly fighting off the radical left lunatics. They are deranged. They are. It's like a derangement syndrome. But I actually said, you know, maybe in some ways I did better because I showed something. But maybe if I had too much time on my hands, it would have gone too far, and the administration wouldn't have been as successful as it was. When you look at our job numbers, I rebuilt the military, largest tax cuts ever. Largest tax cuts, bigger than the Reagan tax cuts.
But higher
largest
revenue.
regulation cuts ever.
I'm staying with my why question because look at this.
Point. Good. Bring it back.
Everybody calls it inflation, but affordability. When we talk about gasoline, under your administration, average $2.57 a gallon. Under Biden, $3.61, 40% more. Under your administration, homes, average $320,000. Under the Biden administration, 31% more, $420,000. Under your administration, interest rates, 3.8 average. Under the Biden administration, 39% more at 5.3%. Okay, now let's look at the border.
Let me stop real quick. Notice during the George Stephanopoulos interview, nobody asked Biden to explain anything that was here on American soil. Phil right there literally talked about gas prices, homes, interest rates. Those are things that impact every last one of us. Everybody has to buy gas if you have a car. And if you don't have a car and you got to at least buy some form of groceries or you got to at least eat, those are things that are main street issues. What do they call them? Kitchen table issues. Nobody cares about NATO. Nobody cares about the Prime Minister of England. But we do care about the fact that we're paying $8 for a dozen eggs. That is, you can't change that. I mean, you can't navigate past that. Everybody has to worry about that. And so I think that it was really appropriate that Phil asked that question and asked those types of questions about stuff that's right here. And he's about to talk about the border. You didn't hear anything about the border. You would have thought the border was perfect during the Stephanopoulos interview. Just something to consider. And again, I think that's just going again. This is a different type of interview, a different type of candidate, because again, they spent the whole time talking about what Biden's health. Let's go.
Under you, average 1.7 million border crossings. Their official number is 6.4. That's from Homeland Security. It's actually about 13 million because I know I've been to the border. I've talked to the border guards down there, Brandon Judd. I've talked to Jason Jones. I've talked to the people that actually know the numbers. They say it's between 10 and 13 million. So my point is, when you look at the actual numbers, plus the things you just talked about, lower taxes, higher tax revenue, you look at that and you would say, my God, he should be running unopposed. I mean, why?
And these numbers, I appreciate it, and these numbers are really, I don't know who made them up.
Very conservative.
As an example, I had gasoline down to $1.87, not $2.57. Right. It's now almost at $4. It's going to be at $5 very shortly. Right. It's going way up.
I took very conservative numbers so people couldn't argue with
interest
them.
rates, I was at 2.6%. They have 3.8. And now they're at 9%, 10%, you can't get money. So, you know, we did a great job. We did a great job.
Okay.
These are things that, again, my hope, my desire for you to watch this and listen to this is to be an informed voter. Ask these types of questions. And I do notice something else that you don't hear you probably won't hear in this interview. So I do want you to keep your ears out for it. Keep your ears out for when Trump actually says he's doing this for his own self-improvement and self-ego. Let me know when you hear that. But then also let me know when he starts instituting identity politics. When he starts saying, I'm doing this activity specific for a specific ethnic group. Let me know when you hear that. Now, sure, there might be some terms thrown out as it relates to different ethnic groups. So show me when he's doing something specifically for an ethnic group, and it only benefits one specific ethnic group. Just something I noticed, and I want you to listen for it.
Here's the question. Most people look at this from the standpoint of, they ask themselves the question, is my life better under this administration or is it better under this administration? My quality of life, my ability to pay for my children's lunches, tennis shoes, getting them to the dentist, getting all of the different things that go to quality of life. And when we look at that, it's not even a close call.
That's right.
So why are people so energized against President Donald J. Trump?
Well, I think it's, to a certain extent, it's habit, not necessarily against me. I think Democrats vote out of habit. I'll give you an example. I was the best president for Israel ever. Golan Heights, all of the things I did for Israel, and yet I get less than 50% of the votes. It's shocking to me. And Biden's a disaster, and Obama was a disaster for Israel with the Iran nuclear deal that he approved, all the, which was basically a path toward nuclear weapons. And I say, why? And I say, it's habit. They're used to voting for Democrats. Black people are used to voting for Democrats, but they're coming off it. They're smart. They're seeing what's happened. They're seeing criminal justice reform. They're seeing the black colleges and universities. I got it funded. They're seeing all of the things that I've done. Nobody could do what I did. I say that, and people sometimes smile, but it's actually true. I'm the best president for black people since Abraham Lincoln. And black people are seeing that, and we have numbers now that as a Republican, I don't think anybody's ever had. Well, I hope they come out and vote for me.
I was just in Jerusalem and interviewed Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Yeah.
He said that the Abraham Accords, which you achieved, he said he didn't have the words to describe what it presented for Israel in terms of security, in terms of the ability to bring about peace and stability to that region.
That's very nice, by the way, that you say that. And by the way, great for the Arab community also. It was great for both.
Yeah,
and they're working so well. The only problem is we had 4 countries sign, real leaders. I would have had everybody signed up. I would have had Iran signed up. People laugh when I say that. Iran was broke. I said, anybody buys from Iran, you can't do business with the U.S. Iran was broke. They were down to almost no money. They had no money to fund Hamas or Hezbollah. They had no money. They were broke. They would have made a deal within a week after the election. That result was very dangerous for our country. But we did great things, and I think that's what people see. People want to go back to where we were.
You had high-level appointee positions that you didn't fill,
right,
and thousands more mid-level positions that you didn't fill, and generated over $4 trillion in tax revenue for the first time ever.
That's right.
With tax cuts, lower tax rates, higher tax revenues.
It brought business into the country.
So why are people so energized against you? Are you getting out messaged?
I think, no. I really believe it's 100 years. As an example, with African Americans, for 100 years, the Democrats have run the cities. 100 years. I used to say 50. They said, you're wrong. I said, you have to be kidding. It's 100 years. It's a habit. They get used to it. But they're learning that habit's being broken in a lot of different ways. I also think you have a fake news that doesn't report it the way they should be reporting it. Look, the news has been proven to be totally fake. And it's 95% on the other side. That's the thing I don't understand. Why do people want open borders where millions of people have come into our country, and you see what's happening to the crime rate? You know, a stat came out the other day that's scary. In Venezuela, Caracas, different cities, they've moved many of these criminals out into the United States and now happily in a location near you, right near your house.
Yeah. Venezuela, the Congo, they're emptying the prisons.
At the Congo, we have many, many people coming out of the prisons of the Congo. But the prison populations are way down all over the world. Nobody wants to talk about it. Prison population and mental institutions, something you deal with a lot. You know more about a mental institution than I do. That's your world. It's what you do better than anybody as far as I'm concerned. You know the population of mental institutions is way down? Because they've moved a lot of the most seriously ill people into our country. And Venezuela just announced that they're 72% down in crime from 2 years ago. Think of that. Because they moved their, I mean, you don't have to be a genius to realize they moved their prisoners out, but they moved their gangs. All the gang members are now in the United States, happily living in the United States. The $150 billion. You know,
sorry about this. Sorry about it. Something about Trump, I think I would like him to stop doing. He uses very extreme words sometimes. He uses words like all and every. And I think a lot of people get hung up on that. So even when you watch the debate, and I'm sure you've seen people say, well, Trump lied 39 times in the whole debate. I think a lot of the time it's words like that. All and every. No, not every last gang member has been moved to the United States, Trump. However, I do think that you can make a case that a lot of them have been, and I think that's fair. But I think that's part of his problem, not his problem, but part of where he really loses people is when he uses those really hyperbolic words and terms. Let's get back. I might have accidentally hit forward. Let me see.
Now, one thing I'll say, he's surrounded by a lot of fascists and communists. Shouldn't be here. He shouldn't be here. And he's dealing with President Xi, who I know very well. And he's dealing with Putin, who I know very well. And he's dealing with all of these leaders of these countries that they don't like the United States. They don't like what it represents. And they are at the top of their game. They are vicious. They love their country, or they want success. You define it any way you want. We've become a failing nation. We're a nation that's in tremendous trouble. We have months to go. We have somebody negotiating for us and dealing for us who is not up to par. He's not, and I'm not even saying now, I think 25 years ago he wasn't up to par, but he's dealing with President Xi of China. He's dealing with President Putin of Russia. He's dealing with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. He's dealing with very tough people that really are at the top of their game. I know them all. I know many more than that. And our country's in tremendous danger of World War III. Our country's, you look at what's going on with Ukraine now, you see what's happening, where they're talking about nuclear. They're bringing out the N-word, as I say. And they're talking about nuclear weapons, and they're talking about things that were never, in my White House, nobody ever uttered the word nuclear. Nuclear is a very bad word because of the power of weaponry. And we have a man that should not be dealing, and we're going to end up in a nuclear war. We're going to end up in World War III with this guy. And if the 5 months is a long time. We have 5 months to go before the election. Now it's even a little bit less. It's getting to be very close. Remember, you have early voting in September 22nd. Pennsylvania goes September 22nd. Yeah. So it's really less, quite a bit less. But I really believe it's a very dangerous time because I think they're making moves. They love him as our president. They don't respect him. They think he's weak and incompetent. Now, one thing I'll say, he's surrounded by a lot of fascists and communists, but a lot of fascists. And they're young and they're smart. And that's who's running our country.
Well, let me ask you something then. Let's assume that you inherit a situation where American bombs are being used inside of Russia. Let's assume that you inherit that. We could wind up with World War III if we're not there already and it just hasn't been labeled yet.
We've never been so close to World War III as we are right now.
There could be 100,000 or more potential terrorists on American soil right now today, given what's happened at the southern border.
Correct.
And we do have Venezuela, Congo, others that are emptying their prisons of their most dangerous criminals with one caveat: we'll let you out, but you go to the United States.
I believe every country is doing it.
Yeah. And
by the way, if you were the head of a country, you'd be the first one to do it. I know you. You'd say, what? Let's get rid of these. You know the money they save and the danger they save?
And look at this map. That I did a show about this. The red is where Chinese government has funded buying major farmland.
Yeah.
And then superimposed on that are some of our most strategic military bases. Yeah. And you can see there's Dugway Proving Ground. That's military equipment, biological, chemical weapons. They're surrounding it. Utah Test Training Range, the largest supersonic authorized restricted airspace in the United States. Whiteman Air Force Base, B-2 Spirit Stealth Bomber Base, missile drone operations, MQ-9 Reaper, Global Strike Command 3, Air Force, entire Bomber Force Nuclear Command Control and Communications. Fort Liberty, Airborne Special Operations Forces, Rapid Deployment. We've allowed them to come in and buy up agricultural land, wind farms, no wind, no blades on some of the towers, but they're surrounding our our military bases.
Right.
We've allowed that to take place. You may come in and inherit all of this, and it may get worse over the next 5 months.
It will.
What are you going to do about that?
Well, first of all, you mentioned a thing, Fort Liberty. Used to be Fort Bragg. We won world wars from Fort Bragg.
Yes.
And they changed the name. And I don't even want to say that they spent $37 million in doing it, because that's not the most important thing, but that's a lot of money. You know,
pretty disgusting.
Now,
Yeah.
I will say this. We want to let people come in and invest in our country at the same time.
Of course.
We want them to come and invest. We don't want to make it so impossible. We have to be careful. And this is a lot of land. What disturbs me as much, because we don't want to, say we're not going to let anyone come in and invest. That would be a bad thing. You know, when I
But
was
they don't
young,
need to buy around our...
no, there seems to be a lot of activity around those nuclear sites, to put it mildly. But the thing, when you mention Fort Liberty, I remember that battle. As soon as I got out, they changed it. But they changed many names, almost all of them. They changed the names of these forts, where we won 2 world wars and plenty of other things. And there's a great anger about that.
Well, as you know, they call it presentism. What they do is they take today's cultural standards and apply it to people's conduct 100 years ago, as though 100 years ago they were supposed to predict what the standards were going to be 100 years in the future and behave the way things were going to be 100 years in the future. You can't.
I call it live action role playing, where you go back and you fight previous wars or try to re-adjudicate something that happened in the past. Like, if you want to go back and argue with your brother and sister about the fact that they got an extra piece of pie at dinner when you all were 5 and 6 years old, but you guys are 35 and 36 years old now, that's live action role playing. It doesn't matter. You could argue about it. Y'all could fight about it. You could get all the police and everybody involved. But guess what? Nothing's going to change about the fact that one of them got a bigger slice of pie. So I think that's what it's called. But I like presidentism as well. That's an interesting term.
Can't do that. It's like you drive through a neighborhood when the speed limit is 20, then they come and change it to 10 and say, I'm going to give you a retroactive ticket. And that's what they're doing. They're holding these people to the standards of today's mores and folkways based on how they behaved back and in that time. It's called presentism. And so they say, oh no, we've got to take these statues down. We've got to change these names because they were behaving in ways that we wouldn't accept today. Well, but it was accepted back then. I'm not saying it's our brightest hour. I'm not saying it's our most shining time. But these people also did great things along with things that we may not be proud of today, but that's who they were at the time.
And it's never, if you know these people, because it's a group of people, and they don't represent the big majority, okay? They don't represent, but it's never good enough. No matter what you do.
No, I call it tyranny of the fringe.
Yeah, it's never good enough. You could.
Real quick, I want to point out something that Paula said here, because it goes along with what I've been saying, conversation I've been having with Kenya here about some of the bombastic, hyperbolic language that Trump uses. Right there, Trump saying, I'm going to bring back the N-word. The media deletes everything he said before that and makes it insinuate that he was saying something he didn't, because we're watching, we know, truth. The reason I bring that up is Trump didn't have to say that. He didn't have to say the N-word for nuclear. I mean, he could have said nukes. He could have said, we want to bring back anything, but using the N-word kind of plays into their game, if you will. And again, I want to give him credit and kudos that during the debate, I feel like he was not playing into their game. They set the trick bag out there. He didn't fall into the game. And I think he needs to be mindful of that. Something as simple as that, because thinking people, because I'm not one of those people that lose my mind, start clutching my pearls when I hear somebody use the N-word, the N with the A or the hard R. I think that's retarded anyway, but I don't lose my mind about it. I don't clutch my pearls if I hear somebody say that. I'm not going to do that. Now, that being the case, he still needs to play smart and realize there are people who will take that and run way in another direction. If he uses something like that and say, I'm going to bring back the N-word, which is, again, I just think that one is, he sets himself up. Sometimes he wins some and he does, 3 steps forward, then he takes a half a step back. Like, just keep walking forward. You don't have to set yourself up like that. Just my little 2 cents. Thank you so much for watching the video and for liking the video and being a part of the best live chat on the planet. Thank you so much. There's about 60 of y'all watching. I appreciate y'all. If you want to, go ahead and hit that like button. It lets me know that you appreciate what we're doing over here, because guess what? We're back at it.
Do all the name changes, all of a sudden they'll find that's a problem. So in different parts of the country...
If you inherit bombs in Russia and you have to deal with Putin, if you inherit terrorists on our soil that could attack our energy grid, how do you deal with that?
I will deal with it, and I'll get the war in Ukraine settled and done by the time I get to office. As president-elect, I will get it done. As president-elect, you have great power. I was able to do great deals from the time I got elected in 2016. I was able to do great deals from the time I got elected to the time I got to office in that little, because you have great power there. You need the power of the presidency to do it. I'm going to get the war in Ukraine, if it's not done by that time. Now, it looks like it's getting worse. They're taking weapons now where they can shoot deep into Russia. Where is this going? Here's the problem. With Ukraine, which is right next to, we have an ocean in between, they're in for a tiny fraction of what we're in for. And I know them very well because I did it with NATO. I said, you people are delinquent. We're paying almost the entire cost of NATO. So they, excuse the word, they screw us on trade. And then on top of that, we're supposed to defend them. And I said, it doesn't work that way. But I didn't want to do that on my first. I let them know my first. When I came back, I didn't want to do it. I was in office for like 2 weeks. Then I'm saying, but I said, you're not paying your way. And I went back the second time and I said, you have to pay. Hundreds of billions of dollars was paid. They asked me one question, will you defend us against Russia if we haven't paid? I said, absolutely not. As soon as I said that, and I took a lot of heat from the fake news. The fake news went crazy when I said that, because I said I won't defend them. Now you have the same thing. They paid hundreds of billions of dollars quickly, and that's where it got all the money to do what they're doing now. But remember this, so we're probably in for $250 billion. They just got 62 billion, and now I heard today that they need more money. It's going to never end. Now, you have some people that say it's not a war that should have ever been started. It would have never started if I was president. Putin would have never done it. First of all, energy went up so much that he makes money on it. When you get up to $100 a barrel, I had it at $40 a barrel, Phil. It's so different. Yeah. But it would have never happened. But now it has happened. Sometimes I hate to say almost that it would never have happened. And Israel would have never happened. The attack on October 7th would have never happened because Iran was broke. And Iran wasn't funding Hamas, and they weren't funding any of the terrorists, Hezbollah, all of them. There's like 28 of them. They had no money. They were broke. I said to China, if you buy oil from Iran, you can't do business in the United States. They didn't want to take any chance of that. Everybody stopped. And we had no terrorist attacks. And I never wanted to talk about it when I was president because I didn't want to jinx it. I wanted to get up and say, we have had no terrorist. Think of it. During my 4 years, we had no terrorist attacks. This nation is in such danger right now with the people that you're just talking about coming in. And it was interesting because I saw 29,000 Chinese people, and they showed it on camera. They look very strong. They all have their propane stoves. They all have cell phones. They look like military people.
A lot of military-age men have come in.
Yeah, they're mostly men, and they're mostly of a perfect age for military. And it's almost like, what are they doing? Building a military organization within our country with our help? We have people running our country who are grossly incompetent, headed up by a president who should never be there.
How do you unravel that?
Well, you have to do it with people, and we'll do it. I have the same thoughts as you do. A lot of common sense to this stuff. It's not, we talked about it before. Conservative, liberal, I don't care. It's common sense. We need borders. We need low taxes. We need good education. We need a strong military. I rebuilt the entire military. The entire military was rebuilt. I built a...
Notice how much Trump, now he is using a lot of I did, I will, I did. So I want to say that. But notice where all of his eyes are pointed here on American interests. Yesterday's video, I talked about the purpose of government from the biblical worldview. The article that I referred to is in the description to this video as well as yesterday's video. However, one of the things I keep pointing out is that a lot of the things that government does, government shouldn't be doing it. Though we might want and have gotten comfortable with government doing it, doesn't mean that's what government's supposed to do. And I want you to look at some of the things that Trump is talking about. These are very key elements that our government should be doing. Making sure we have a border, making sure that we have an orderly society so that we can succeed and thrive based upon our own ingenuity and our own steam. Just my little 2 cents.
Wall that was so great, and I got Mexico to give us 28,000 soldiers while I was building the wall to keep people out. We didn't have what you have today. We had the lowest day the week that I left office, and it was a sad day for this country. The week that I left office, that's when we had our lowest illegal flow of immigrants coming into our country. And all Biden had to do was leave it in place.
Yeah.
I had a thing called Remain in Mexico. They had to remain in Mexico. How good is that? They had catch and release in Mexico. It was so stupidly run. And all Biden had to do when he goes to the beach, he's always in the beach, right? He thinks he looks good in the bathing suit. Some advisor said, go to the beach, you look great, Joe. And he can't even lift the chair, which weighs about 6 ounces. Those chairs that you can lift. They're meant for children and old people to lift. So Joe is in the sand, and he's in the beach, and he's totally decimating everything that we built. We built the strongest border in the history of our country, and we're going to do it again. Just one little thing. In 2016, I got elected maybe because of the border. But that border was a fraction. It was nothing compared to what the border is today. And I fixed it. And in 2020 when I ran, I couldn't even talk about, nobody wanted to hear about the border because I fixed it. I'll fix it again. But the border today is many, many times worse than it was in 2016.
Well, I've been to the border, and they just straight up say we're using tax dollars to send some of these children that are coming across the border into known prostitution rings, into sweatshops, because we don't have the ability to check. They're just sending them off.
We have 88,000 missing children. Now, can you imagine if that were Trump that had 88,000 missing children? Yeah. 88,000, that's a Holocaust. That's as bad as think of it. These are young, very young children, and also women. They take women, and they trade women. And I had it brought down to the lowest level because I had a border that was actually strong.
And you're going to take it back to that?
Oh, we're going to bring it back, and I think then some. One thing, and you know this better than anybody, that you got to know people. It's about people. If you put a great person at the head of a big agency, lots of good things happen. In my business, if I have a good super in real estate, superintendent, running one of my buildings, and if I move them to another building, sometimes you move them to another building but then that building, you need good people. And we had a lot of great people. I had some that I was very disappointed in. I was some that I was very, very disappointed in. But the one thing is that I was in Washington 17 times in my entire life. I never stayed over. That was reported by the news. I was very rarely there. I wasn't a Washington. I was a New York person. I was a builder in New York, a real estate guy. I had a wonderful company. Everything was going good. It would have been so easy to just to keep doing that. It was probably one of the most successful days of my life was the day before I announced I was running for president. Once you do this, the whole world changes. I even lost Oprah, okay? Oprah liked me so much. And, I haven't spoken to her, I think, since. But she's a good person. Please give her my regards. But, you do things, and my attitude is you have to do what's right. If I didn't think that I won the election by a lot, I would have never run. And I don't think I've ever said this on air before. Maybe I have. But losing the election wouldn't have been that, somebody wins, somebody loses. You go on with your life. But when you lose an election that you won by millions of votes, if I didn't think I won the election, I would have never done it a second, because I would have lost. In other words, I would have lost. I ran because I won the election, and I know that that's what the people want. They want what you and I are talking about right now. They want strong borders, and they want good education. They want all these things that we talked about.
So real quick, stop. Go back and listen to what Biden said when George Stephanopoulos said, why are you running? And so on and so forth. It was all about him. Him. He needs to, not they want stronger. This is what the American people want. I want to give the American people something. Nothing of that nature. Just something to pay attention to.
And we're going to get it to them. We're going to get it fast. Probably the hardest problem, the biggest problem is nuclear and the weaponry, and we have to keep out of wars and all that. But the hardest problem for our country is the millions and millions of people that have been brought into this country, that have been dropped here. Many of them should not be here. They're really, really bad people from the jails, from the places. And you know what's going to happen? You'll take 10 out, and you'll have one where it's a woman with a couple of kids, and you're going to have the news say, oh, look at this, how horrible, how horrible. It's a very hard thing to do, but we have to have the largest deportation effort in the history of our country. Dwight Eisenhower had it very early on because he was one that wanted strong borders.
But you're not against immigration.
No, I'm totally for it. But
we need it.
I think we need it desperately. But I don't want their prisoners, and I don't want their people from mental institutions, and I want people to come in legally. I want to let people come in. We need it. We do need it. We need people. But we need good people. We need people that aren't going to blow up our shopping centers and kill people.
Let me ask you two areas I want to talk to you about that's going to be different, because I'm different, so let me be different. You have a personality-driven platform, just like I do. Mine's a fraction of yours. You've taken every shot you can imagine. You've been criticized, attacked, called every name in the book. They've turned the judicial system against you, the intelligence community. 51 intelligence officers swear that this is a Russian plant, this laptop over here, right before the election. The media has turned against you, print, TV, radio, internet, in the streets. Not campaigning Donald Trump, just real Donald Trump. How do you deal with that stress in your most private moments?
So, two things. Number one, I don't like thinking about it. Out of sight, out of mind. I don't know if that makes sense to you. I don't want to think about it. Number two, I have tremendous support. I have the people's support. I think if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to handle it so easily. When a judge who has conflicts like nobody's ever had wants to put me in jail, when he puts a gag order and say, if you talk about these things, we're going to put you in jail. And I'm the Republican candidate. I was president. I'm leading the Democrat by a lot. He wants to put me in jail. I like not to think about it. It's like they say, oh, don't eat that food, don't eat this food, don't do this, don't do that. They don't really know. It might be good for you. It might not be bad. It might be good. They say it causes cancer. I say, don't talk to me about it. I don't want to hear the word. I don't want to. It's out of sight, out of mind. I think I have a very good disposition for trauma. But I have great support, Phil. The one thing is, because you mentioned lots of groups, and you're right about that, but I also have great support within the media. You know, there's a group of people in the media. You might be one of them. You're a very important force. The fact is, I've watched you so long, I just felt so confident when you called. I said, you know, otherwise, what do I have to subject myself to it for? It doesn't make sense. But I find it to be a very different and very interesting it's a psychological interview that you're doing too. You're sort of being my psychiatrist, and maybe I could use a psychiatrist every once in a while. No, it's pretty cool. But I try not to think about. I try not to go into that. And very importantly, I have tremendous support. I have support from the people. You look at the polls, and they agree with me. There's sort of a silent majority. You know, it's a term that's been used over the years, but it's a true term. I have the support of many more people than they have, if we call they the bad guys. And I think if I didn't, or if I felt I didn't, I would not be quite the same person.
You know, we all have a personal truth. You know, it's that what we believe about ourselves when we don't have our mask on, when we don't, you know, I put on a nice suit. You know, I'm going to see the president here.
Nice suit.
I want to be credible.
Looks good.
And we, you know, we put our best foot forward when we step out into the world. But we do have a personal truth that what we believe about ourselves at our most vulnerable, when nobody's looking, nobody's listening. Maybe it's 3 o'clock in the morning, we wake up looking at the ceiling, thinking, what the hell am I doing?
If you're a parent, you probably, if you're a parent of girls, let me tell you, then you know this feeling. Phil is reading our mail, all dads that have daughters. I'm telling you, he's reading, well, let me say it like this. He's reading my mail, okay? Let me just tell you.
What do you say to yourselves when the crowds aren't cheering?
Thank you
When
so
you're
much for the
home
super chats.
alone, you're riding in the car, you're by yourself. What is the hardest, darkest moment that you can think of in this journey you've been on the last several years?
You have to be very strong. You're fighting off very evil forces, and they're very smart forces. There are people that control Biden, totally true. I think I know who they are largely. But there are people that control him. They're very smart, very energetic. Possibly they're real believers, what their sick ideology is. But you have to be smart, and you have to have confidence. I mean, you have to have a certain confidence. The other thing is, I realize over the years, I've been through a lot, great and bad. I won the presidency. Everybody said, how are you going to do it? How good is that? It was the most incredible evening, one of the most incredible evenings in the history of the country. Look at the celebration. I mean, it was incredible. But you also go through bad. I understand fully that the bad also disappears. In other words, you'll go through bad moments and it disappears. It's sort of funny because I've watched your show a lot over the years. See, I'm not ashamed to say it because some people say, oh, you watch Dr. Phil. Well, your show is a very smart show. And I've watched you ask a question similar to that to some couple or and they break down, they start crying on the show. I said, that's never happening to me. If that happens to me, that's the end of my political career. I think maybe people would like me better. But I'll tell you what, you need strength. You have to have strength. And people don't want to see that. I've watched so many people, you break down people, they don't even know they're being broken down. But it's different.
Well, that's the last thing I want to do with you, but I do want people to know you. I want people to know every aspect of you, and I know it about myself. I know that not every time is a great day, not every time is a hard day.
I thought you led a charmed life. You never had a problem in your life, right?
Yeah. I watched you during that trial. That's not a fun time.
It was an icebox. That courtroom was so cold.
Really?
And I believe it was set that way by the judge. That courtroom was freezing. I'd call it the icebox, right? I say, I just sat through 4 hours, and I'm not campaigning by doing that. That's what angered me. They're taking away my voice. They're keeping me in this icebox, and they're taking away my voice. Wow. But, one thing you bring it up, and you haven't asked me the question yet, and I'm sure you will, although I know we've been doing this for quite a while, and it's an honor to do it. But the hardest part for me is probably my family, because it's very unfair to my family. I have a very good wife. She reads this crap. I have great kids. You know what amazed me? I gave up my salary. I didn't take salary. And it's $450,000, approximately $450,000 a year. So, it's still money. It's a couple of $1 million. I never had a good story saying I did. I'm not looking for a story. What surprised me is there was a couple of stories. Who else did it? Nobody. Everybody took. I figured maybe Kennedy, it's a pretty rich family. I figured the only one that may have done it was George Washington. George Washington was a very wealthy landowner. Mm-hmm. And they said the only one that may have done it is George Washington. I figured Roosevelt, maybe FDR. There were some pretty rich presidents. Every president took their salary. Bush's took their salary. I didn't take my salary. I gave it up. And every month, I'd get a call from the fake news, because you can't really give it up. You have to give it to an organization within government. You're not allowed to actually give it. So what happens? You get the check, and then you give it to Health and Human Services, or you give it to the Navy, or you give it to the Army, or something. And every month they say, "Did you give it? Did he give it?" And when you show them that you gave it, there was no story. And it was just interesting to see. The whole system is rigged. I mean, it's just a nasty system. But
I kind of wonder what would have been the story if he had kept the money. 1 month, he just says, you know what? I'm going to just blow this check and do something with it. I wonder what they would have said. And just interesting. I mean, kudos to him. Hats off. I heard he made that commitment early on in his presidency. Apparently he stuck to it. Kudos. That's a hats off type of moment for sure. I just wonder, what would the press have said if he had actually spent the money, which, again, was his prerogative?
The saddest is, I'll give you one quick example. I have a son, Don. He's a good kid, and he wants to help people. And they said he was involved with Russia. He knows less about Russia than that young person sitting right over there, who I'm sure knows nothing about Russia. And it was Adam Shifty Schiff, a bad guy. And he comes out of a so-called intelligence meeting, and he goes to a microphone, and there's a lot of press gathered, because this was during the Russia hoax, total hoax. It had nothing to do. 5 million phone calls, I had not one phone call to Russia. It was a hoax, and it came out that way, and it's nice, but it took 2.5 years. And by the way, it was very dangerous, because at least Putin understood it was a hoax. You know, he used to say, he thought we were crazy, to be honest with you. He thought we were crazy. But Don, so they'd say, Adam Schiff comes out and says, Donald Trump Jr. will go to jail because of what he's done with Russia. And it was Adam Schiff and Hillary Clinton and some others in the DNC that they made up a story. Think of how bad you have to be. You make up a phony story about Russia, the Russia hoax. You have the dossier, you have the whole thing, it's all fake. They paid $12 million or something for the dossier, $12 million. They gave this guy Steele a fortune to do a fake story. It's called the fake dossier, right? Mm-hmm. They go to my son. They know it's fake. It's not like they think it's real. They know it's a fake because they made it up. And they say, Donald Trump Jr. will go to jail. So I call up my son. I said, are you okay? Is there something I don't know? How bad do you have to be when you can say about a story that you made up that you know is fake, that my son is going to go to jail because of the story?
How do you deal with that as a father? Because I've had it happen to me. You've met Jordan.
Yes.
And my other son, Jay. I've had stories about them, and it infuriates me.
I called him up. I knew it wasn't true, but I said, this guy, these are not stupid people. I call him Watermelon Head. He's got the thinnest neck I've ever seen, how it holds up that head. He's got a neck that's about a size 6. Very unattractive guy, both inside and outside. And people say, oh, that's such a terrible thing to say. It's okay. Very unattractive guy. Here's the thing. These are bad people. And it's not easy to deal with. You know, when you have your kids involved or your family, your wife, and you read stuff, most of it is untrue. It's just totally untrue. But think of that. They make up a story and then they say your son's going to jail for something that they know is false. These are bad people.
Is that harder to take than when they're talking about you?
Yeah, for me it is. For me, I've become different. Maybe it would have been tougher. I think the fact that I have such unbelievable support helps me a lot. It doesn't bother me.
Has it bothered you? Has there been blowback on Barron because he's younger and more vulnerable?
It's not easy. And he's a great kid. He's a good student. He's got accepted to different colleges. He's got some of those colleges, all of a sudden they're rioting all over the place. You know, you're saying, but he's a good boy. He's a tall boy. He's very tall. He's very tall. And he's a great kid. He's a good-looking kid. And, he's going to be going to college. But he doesn't say it. And I think he doesn't say it because he doesn't want to hurt me. He thinks it's possibly a hurtful conversation. But it has to affect my family. And I think that's really unfair because I have a very good family. I have good kids. I have a wonderful wife. I mean, it's not easy for her to read this kind of stuff. That's fake. That's fake stuff. But that's the way it is. It certainly is not a good thing. And it affects me more than it would if it were just about me. I wish it could be just about me.
How's she holding up through all of this?
I think good, but I don't think it's an easy thing for her. And I think if it wasn't good, she wouldn't want to tell me about it, to be honest with you, because, she sees that I'm fighting like hell. I'm trying to become president and make America great again. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make America great again. They put tremendous obstacles in our way, including the 20 million people that are going to be in here by the time this guy gets out. It's an election we have to win. We're not going to have a country left if we don't win this election.
Have you ever thought that the toll that it takes on your family is too much?
Maybe not in the way you expressed. That's a very interesting way of expression, actually, of that question. I haven't really. I think to a certain extent, I think that my family wants me to do it. Our country's in trouble. We could be in a world war very soon. We're going to end the problem. Think of it. We're going to end Ukraine fast. I'm going to end it fast. I know both. I know Zelensky. I know Putin very well. I'm going to get it ended. That is a horror show that's going on over there.
If nothing else, you hear that this man, I mean, granted, yeah, he's boasting. Yeah, you're right. Sure, he's not humble. You're right. I dare you. You might even say he's prideful. Okay, but you do kind of get it in somewhere deep in your mind, in your psyche, in your heart. You're like, he probably could get it done. He probably could get it done. You don't hear that kind of bravado from the other side. So again, I'm not trying to just big him up or prop him up. I'm just saying, like, he keeps saying this stuff. You're like, he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. He's saying, like, look, in the first 100 days, I'm gonna get this done, this done, this done, this done. And in the back of your mind, you're like, he's probably gonna get it done. I mean, tell me one thing that Joe Biden has said that's gonna help America that you feel like, oh my gosh, he's gonna be a bulldog tenacious to get that thing done in the first 100 days. Tell me what it is. I'll wait.
But think of it. Why are we hundreds of billions of dollars more money? Why is this happening? Why is Europe spending a fraction of the money that we're spending? There are so many different things about that are just wrong. But my family's good. My family loves this country, and I think they feel that I do a good job. Look, we had the most successful country we've ever had during my time. We had the greatest economy in history of any country.
Do they want you to run, or do they tolerate you running?
An interesting question. Well, they tolerate it, but
they at least tolerate it.
Yeah, they tolerate it. I think they love the country. I think they think that I do a good job. I think they feel that a lot of people say that this is nobody. I get it so often, and I'm not sure it's right. They say there's nobody else that can straighten out this country. And again, Viktor Orban said just recently, he's a strong man from a very interesting country, and he knows Russia very well. He knows Zelensky very well. He knows Ukraine. But he said the only one, Hungary, he said the only one that's going to straighten this out is Trump, because he didn't use the word respect. He used the word, they were afraid of him. I don't want to say that about these people, these other leaders. I don't want to say they were afraid. I'm not going to use that term. But let's use the word respect. They respected me. They respected me, and they respected our country. And they knew if they played games, I was going to hit the hell out of them with tariffs and lots of other things. We have a lot of weapons, not just military weapons. I rebuilt our entire military, by the way. Our entire military is rebuilt. And this person that we have leading us, if you can call the word leading with quotes, he gave away $85 billion worth of brand new military equipment in Afghanistan. In my opinion, the lowest day in the history of our country. I think probably the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country was what happened, the way we pulled out of Afghanistan. We left people behind. We had 13 soldiers who I met the parents. They're devastated, killed. Nobody ever talks about, you would talk about them. I put them right up the top. 38 soldiers who are no arms, no legs, faces just wiped out. They're trying to live, trying to live. Nobody ever talks about them. They talk about 13 dead, absolutely. But they don't talk about 38 soldiers that have been wiped out. And then hundreds of people were also killed. Hundreds of people where this madman set off a bomb. Should have never left them. They should have been in Bagram. We should have kept Bagram. Bagram is 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. We gave it up. You know who's occupying Bagram right now? China. Yeah. China. We gave the biggest Air Force base, one of the biggest runways, one of the most powerful runways, 8 foot thick of concrete, built when the dollar was very big, okay? Years ago. We gave it to the Chinese. It should have never happened. What we've done, I think that was the most embarrassing day. And I have to tell you, if that didn't happen, I don't know that Putin would have gone in. I think Putin watched that catastrophe and he said, hey, this is a great time to attack Ukraine.
You think it emboldened him?
I think so, yeah, I think so.
Let me ask you this. Right now, headlines everywhere, of course, you don't respect, but there are headlines out there that say, when you win your second term, that you are going to make the people that have come after you pay.
I want to stop right here before it gets too far afield, because this is the final lap, and this is where the vengeance, the revenge argument came in. I do want you just to listen to what he says, not, was it revenge versus justice, being held accountable, all that kind of stuff like that. Just hear what Dr. Phil's question is to Trump and listen to Trump's answer, not Dr. Phil's question to a president. There is a difference. And I do think if you've been paying attention through the whole thing, Dr. Phil has kind of been building up to this moment, which is basically they've been doing all this to you and to your money and to your interests and then to your family. When you become president, aren't you going to get them back? Aren't you going to seek revenge? So please understand, Donald Trump is answering almost in a dichotomy, almost two ways. He's answering as Donald Trump the man and as Donald Trump the president. Just keep that in mind. Let's keep going. Let's finish.
Retribution and revenge.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this before you even respond to that. I want to play what if with you for a minute. What if when you win this election, you said, enough is enough. Too much is too much. This is a race to the bottom, and it stops here. It stops now. They've made a half a dozen or more major attempts to take you off the playing board, right. And you just said, it stops now. I am going to rise above this cycle of ugly. I'm not going to play this gotcha retribution game. It stops now. I'll forgive, I'll not ever forget, but I am not going to play this retribution game. I am going to put the American people first, not getting my pound of flesh first. You got to do what you got to do, but I'm going to put this country as the shining city on the hill. I am moving forward. I'm not playing the retribution game. It stops with me, it stops here. What if you took that approach?
I'm okay with that. I am. I'm okay with that. Sometimes, I'm sure in certain moments, I wouldn't be. You know, when you go through what I've been through, they spied on my campaign. You know, they spied on my campaign. Remember I announced it? They did things that people don't even talk about. And I got rid of Comey, and I got rid of a lot of people. I got rid of a lot of people, thousands of people. At the VA, I cleaned it, 9,000 people. They were sadists. I got rid of them. But what they've done is bad. With all of that being said, we have to unite the country, Phil. The country has to be united. This country is a mess.
Every situation needs a hero. What a great opportunity for you to stop this cycle, this vicious cycle of gotcha, gotcha back, gotcha, gotcha back. Every situation needs a hero. What a great opportunity to step up and say, you know what, it stops here, it stops with me.
I think you'll be impressed. We have to unite the country. We have to save the country. That's not really saving the country. There are people that did some bad things. I know who they are and all of that. But as an example, with Hillary Clinton, I'd mention her name. Everyone's screaming. Thousands and thousands. Yeah, we just had 107,000 people show up in New Jersey. You saw that. 25,000 people showed up in the South Bronx.
In the South Bronx.
But we had Wildwood, New Jersey. 107,000 people. It was a record. They've never had that. When I mention the name Hillary previous to the last election, they said, lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. But I would be there, and I'd try to almost quiet them down. They were going crazy. How would it be I win, and I lock Hillary Clinton up? The president's wife, the former president's wife, I locked her up. And how would it be if I took the Secretary of State, she was Secretary of State, and we threw her into a prison someplace? I think it was terrible. And yet now they're trying to do that with me. Think of it. I didn't want to do that. I could have done that pretty easily. She busted up her phones and she busted up her laptops and what they did, and they put bleach bit. You know what bleach bit is? It's so expensive nobody uses it because it's an acid and it wipes everything out. Could have done it real easy. Don't forget, she disobeyed a subpoena from the United States Congress, and she broke up all this machinery, all this technology after she got the subpoena. Think of it. How would it look if I took a president of the United States wife and threw her into a prison? I hated it because I wanted to bring the country together, and I largely did. And I brought it together through success because it was the most successful economy in the history of our country. Okay. Now the difference is they're trying to do it to me. And maybe you could feel differently about it, but I don't feel differently. Retribution is going to be through success. We're going to make it very successful. We have to bring the country together.
And you can do that. Because let me tell you, this revenge thing there's a lot of research, and Dr. James Kimmel at Yale.
Okay, we've heard him say this. I do want to point out something. Donald Trump has said that he's not going to seek revenge. And unless this is redacted or something, I'm not 100% certain why Dr. Phil is on this revenge train. He's already said he would not exact revenge on anybody. So it's kind of done. It's finished. I'm not 100% certain why he's still bringing it up. But let's let him go. Let's finish.
Has done this research and seen neurologically in the brain that there's an addiction to revenge, just like to opioid or whatever. And that even if people commit a crime and they get arrested for it, they see themselves as the victim and they want revenge against the person that arrested them. And then the person that arrested them gets hammered. So now that person says, okay, well, I'm not going to put up with that. So they go back after the criminal. Now the criminal has been victimized again. And so we get into this loop where we're addicted to it back and forth. It's got to stop. And we're better than this. We must be better than this, and you're big enough to do it. Every situation needs a hero. You can stop this. You can say,
well,
no,
I think
it ends here. It ends with me.
I think you'll be proud of the job we do. And, the word revenge is a very strong word, but maybe we have revenge through success. But that's what I'd like to see. I want to see the country survive, because this country is not going to survive like this. And really, the expression, I think it's the greatest theme ever in politics, maybe, because it's the biggest movement. We want to make America great again, and that's what we have to do. And I think you'll be very proud of the job we do.
The Pope has a book out that he's written, and he says, we are all brothers and sisters, and there must be no resentment among us. For any war to truly end, forgiveness is necessary. Otherwise, what will follow is not justice, but revenge. And that's true even in the cultural wars that we're fighting here. I think you have so much to do, you don't have time to get even. You only have time to get right.
Well, revenge does take time, I will say that.
It does.
And sometimes revenge can be justified, Phil. I have to be honest. Sometimes it can.
But is the country better or worse for them going after you?
I think the country is really worse for what they've done. And I think you see that when you look at the poll numbers, when you see that almost $400 million has poured in since this horrible decision was made. That was a few days ago. Numbers that nobody's ever heard of in politics before. It's a great honor. The people of our country get it. They're very smart. Taken as a whole, I have to say, they're very smart. But it's been an honor being with you. It really has. And I think you'll be very proud of the job we do.
You have rallied people. I had people in my focus group the other night that said, I have not voted for Trump before. I have not been a Trump fan before. But I have donated to Trump because he has inspired me. I have donated to him, and I am voting for him now, and I have not before, but he has inspired me.
Actually, it's been a beautiful thing to watch. Thank you.
Mr. President, it's been an honor speaking with you. Thank you so much.
All right, so that was the Trump Dr. Phil interview, and for the life of me, I have no idea why Dr. Phil's team would not want that video out more aggressively. I'm sorry, that thing should be like Kendrick Lamar. Just put it out there, no copyright, use it, just use it and allow people to see and to hear. Because we, as many people have commented here, like this is a very transparent, this is a very humanistic, this is a very raw form of Donald Trump that you don't see very often. And sure, he's a New Yorker. I totally understand. He's bombastic. I totally get it. But I think we can also see, like, he's a human. He's just a dude, just a guy. When the metal meets the meat, when it's all said and done, he's just a guy that is trying to do his job. And, by God's grace, it seems like he really wants to do the job of being a president, not for his own. And please let me know if you heard this is a whole bunch of, Donald Trump fare and all this kind of boosting of his ego. Did you hear that? I didn't hear it, but maybe I was wrong. So if you did hear it, I would love to hear what you thought about it. But I do, before we get too far afield, I want to say thank you to each and every one of these super chats. I'm going to go through these. And I do also want to give thanks because someone sent me a very kind Venmo. I think this is my first Venmo. That's kind of cool. Thank you. And asked that it keep it a secret, but I said I would keep it a secret. but I do want to say thank you very much. And I just want to say I appreciate you all. I'm not again, just watching the videos and chiming in the super chat, in the live chat and such like that. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot, and it shows me that you find value in what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to go through some of these super chats. I'm going to say thank you to every last one of you. And I want to honor you by reading the question you had and answering it. All right. This Present Not Perfect, my new brother from a different mother. He said, what are your thoughts about the Project 2025 and how the Democrats are pushing it on Trump? Okay, so if you're not familiar with the Project 2025, I haven't read it. I've watched a summary of it, and I literally have a video here of two females discussing it, and they're Black women discussing it. And as far as I know, as far as I can understand, and what I've read, Trump is not accepting or not embracing Project 2025. It's kind of like the fair tax. The fair tax is out there. People understand that there's something called the fair tax. There have been several books about the fair tax, so on and so forth, but no president. And maybe even people are like taking parts of it, say, oh, I like that part, I don't like this part, or I want to take this portion, but not the whole thing. So that's kind of like how I'm understanding Project 2025. It seems like it's like a governmental overhaul of the highest orders. It's several hundred pages long. It's very detailed, but apparently, it summarizes it, is a very extensive overhaul of the entire federal government. That's kind of wild. So as far as I know, however, Donald Trump has not said he's doing anything about that. Now, maybe if I'm wrong, please email me, dearwokec@gmail.com. I don't know that he's accepted any parts of it. Now, watch. If the Project 2025 says we're going to make all stop signs red and Trump supports red stop signs, that doesn't mean he supports Project 2025. It just means that all stop signs are red and Trump believes that all stop signs to be red. So it doesn't have to be the same thing. So I don't know why people keep trying to put that on him and hoist that on him, except for the fact that they're losing and they just want to make they're trying their very best. They're clawing and scratching and biting and clinging to try to bring some kind of victory in here by making Trump look bad as best they can. So thank you so much, President Not Perfect. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much. Then Jay Rose comes through and she says, so proud of you, DWC. Watched your channel grow and you are such a positive inspiration. God continue to bless you. Well, thank you so much, sister. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Now, my good friend Kenya sent me a super sticker. Thank you so much for the kind super sticker. And she was mentioning in the chat that, yes, I do understand. Hear me. I do understand that Trump is very hyperbolic. Look, I'm very hyperbolic. I do that too. And that's why actually somebody asked me why I always pick on gerbils. And if you've ever listened to any of my stories, any person in a school setting is always Miss Bumblebee, Mr. Caterpillar, and so on and so forth, because I don't want to get in any trouble. That's why I do that. So if you ever notice, like, I'm always picking on gerbils. I don't know why. I don't know why, but I figured gerbils are safe. Everybody will know if I say that somebody's throwing gerbils, everybody knows that I'm kind of being silly and I'm not being for real, because I've had so many people when I said things that were more, somebody's throwing a kid, then everybody gets, oh, Jason's throwing children. So that's why I do this. I understand hyperbolic speech. I also realize, though, the people in the audience that I might be dealing with that maybe are looking for an inroads or a way to cause chaos and confusion and bring foolishness into the mix. So that's why I say I'm not going to use some of those hyperbolic statements. I'm not going to use certain things or skate close to and say like the N word. I'm not going to do that because I just feel like that might put me in a position where somebody's going to get it, be able to interpret it wrong and then run in the wrong direction. So that's it. But hey, look. If that's the worst thing Trump is doing is using the N word for nuclear, have at it, my guy. I'm perfectly fine. I ain't got no problem with it. You can even use the hard R, nuclear. Okay, I'm good with that. Let's keep going. Anthony Davis, thank you so much, man. Very kind. $10 super chat. He says, and this is it right here. This is it right here. I believe that you can make your whole entire case from the biblical narrative of what is the role of a government. And what does he say? A president's job is to make sure we have secure borders, protect our sovereignties as states, and negotiate foreign treaties and oversee federal affairs. That's it. That's it. Now we can get into some fine details of like punishing criminals. Well, absolutely. But watch this, also rewarding those who do good. So in the current state that we're in right now, they're rewarding the criminals and punishing those who do good. That's the wrong flip-flop. Again, that's what I'm saying. Government is doing the most. And a lot of what they're doing is wrong. Thank you so much, Retired. And Retired is a stream sponsor. Thank you very much. Oh, stream sponsor. I appreciate it. And what does he say? Such a strong difference in interviews and interviewers. And I appreciate it. And that's true. And I wanted y'all to see that. I wanted you to see it like really in a good side to side, but I'll take this. So you can definitely watch the Biden interview and then watch this one as well. The full video is actually linked in the description. I just don't want Phil's team slapping me down again. But I think there's a big contrast. You hear so much about what Donald Trump wants to do here on American soil. You would have thought America's perfect. You would have thought everything's fine following Joe Biden. All we're worried about is NATO and what's going on in England. And that was it. Oh, and of course, his health. That was the only things that are important. So I think that was a great point. Thank you so much for pointing that out. And thank you for the very kind super chat, Retired. What we have here, Terry says this: Oprah is no longer his friend. And I think that's really foul. And many of us, if we've gone in different paths ideologically, like politically, if you've embraced the Christianity and at one time you were on another path, but now you're a Christian or whatever, we've lost friendships. And I think that's really foul because there's no other reason that Oprah is not rocking with Donald Trump except for the fact, for the narrative. She's doing it for the narrative. So let's keep going. Sorry about that. Let's keep going. Oprah's no longer his friend. And notice at this point also, he didn't say anything negative about her. He said, wish her the best. And he almost said, I wish you would call him. So anyway, he at least knows who is a true friend. Maybe he knows where the bodies are buried. It's very possible. Hey, let's keep going. Anthony, again, thank you so much again for the very kind super chat as well. What does he say? In warfare, especially spiritual warfare, when God allows someone to come in and keep the enemy at bay, seize territory, God will make a way. And we have to recognize it in God's will. I agree with you right there. And I think at the end of the day, wherever your eschatology causes you to land, I think we all can agree at one point or another, America will have to be overshadowed by God's ultimate plan, right? However, that being the case, we can still want to do good here. We can still want to do the right things now in real time in 4K and not worry about what was done in the past, learn from the past and move differently in the future. And because we understand in the present. So with that, I think if we as Americans keep moving in the right direction, sure, we'll be doing the right things for other citizens around the world, but we'll do the right things here in America as well. Because again, Americans are far more generous. Americans are far more philanthropic. I mean, come on. I mean, we're far more. That doesn't mean that there's not other generous peoples outside of America and that there's not philanthropic activities outside of America. But let's just tell the truth, shame the devil. Americans do that. So by us being able to have more, we will be able to do more. And you saw that even with Trump explaining how when he cut taxes, they brought in more revenue. That just makes sense because people now have more money to go out there and create more money. I mean, it just makes good sense. So anyway, I appreciate y'all. Thank you again, everybody, for the very kind support. I appreciate you all not only chiming in to the live chat, but also being supportive in the live. I really do appreciate it. Let me come down here to the end, make sure I didn't miss any of the good commentary going on in the chat. Yeah, okay, here we go. Trump does want bragging rights. Let's just be honest, okay? He's not a Christian. He's not redeemed, but he does want bragging rights. But watch this. His desire for bragging rights ultimately will benefit us. You can't take that away from the guy. The guy sat there and bragged about all the things that he did, and those things benefited every last one of us. Cutting taxes, that benefits us all. Lower gas prices, us all. Come on. Secure border, that's us. Now, again, should he be bragging? No, I think you don't even have to make that argument. Everybody agrees. But let's just be honest again. It benefited us. And again, I mean, Trump is just, he is who he is. Let's just be honest. Now, show me Biden bragging about something that he did that benefited everybody. I'll wait. And cost a chameleon, I agree. And I think if you go back and listen to how Dr. Phil was couching it and how Donald Trump is answering, he said, he's basically saying he himself, if it's something that he can forgive, if it's something that he can not have to, cart somebody's former president's wife's out in handcuffs, he's not going to do it. On the contrary, however, I don't think that he was excusing that if somebody committed crimes that they don't go to jail. I don't think that was the case. But a lot of people are reading that into, I don't know where they got that from. But I totally get what you're saying. I appreciate it, though. All right. And I think this is what Retired kind of summarized what I think Dr. Phil was doing. And I agree with Retired wholeheartedly. He says Dr. Phil wants to make sure it's settled issue for his peace of mind. Absolutely. And I think ultimately, and I think it was fair, like Trump does come across as being forgiving, even though, again, I keep saying at this moment, I don't see that he's a Christian, that he's not walking in Christ likeness, but hey, he understands he needs to forgive. I think that is definitely something that something to note. Let's keep it moving. And it's always been true, Grace. Absolutely. Hillary Clinton, whatever's done in the dark will be brought out in the light. Whatever's whispered in the chambers will be shouted from the rooftops. That's still truth. That's true. There's nothing that's going to change that. And so Hillary Clinton and everybody else, Donald Trump, all of us, we must bring our sins to the foot of the cross, because otherwise those sins will not be answered for. I mean, there's some dirt on Hillary's hands. There's dirt on Trump's hands. There's dirt on my hands that must be brought to the foot of the cross. Otherwise, I will have to answer for the dirt on my hands. All right, let's see what we got. I appreciate the likes. Thank you so much. Looks like about 55 people were watching. Thank you so much. About 34 liked the video, which is dope. I appreciate it. If you do like this type of content, hit the like button. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, I think, and Mama Joe says, their hate for him exposes them for who they are. Yeah, I mean, like, okay, fine. And again, I would love for somebody to show me, drop me a video of Trump saying he's going to be a dictator. Show me that. Show me that video. Or rally or wherever he said he's going to be a dictator. Show me that. Because I've got videos of people saying that he said that. Where does he say that? Show me where he said he's going to support the 2025 project. I mean, it's almost like 900 pages, I believe. Who actually read the thing? Like, how do you know he supports it? I mean, the project 25 might say that all podcasters should wear black hats with murdered out decals on it. Then I guess I'm supporting the 2025 project, for crying out loud. I don't know that. What are you talking about? So it's just silliness, but I think it exposes them, and as Mama Joe's says here, it exposes them and ultimately makes them look bad. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, as long as we're doing what is right, and I do think that Donald Trump wants to do what's right. Sure, does he do it for the right motives? I don't know. I think the jury's out on that. Does he do it for the most altruistic way? No, I can't say that emphatically. But what I can say, what he's trying to do does benefit the people that he's asked to govern. And I think that's something we got to consider. The mutual respect between them there was a lot of mutual respect. There was a lot of, in contrast to George Stephanopoulos, you could hear George Stephanopoulos was very agitated with Joe Biden. He was frustrated because now whether or not he wanted to talk about other topics, I don't know, but you can tell from his voice and his inflection, like, come on, Joe, answer this question, and so I can move on. He didn't like it. So there wasn't the level of respect was not there, in my opinion. Okay, what do we have here? Off all that, this is Prince says what? Off all that, the radical left has no morals and cares about none and have no moral plans for us. Just saying. Oh, I'm just agreeing. Then. If you just saying, then I'm just agreeing. I'm with you, my friend. Thank you so much, Transplanted Texan. Here's the link for the full video. Transplanted Texan dropped it in the chat as well. I think that it came across genuine. To me, the fact of how genuine Trump comes across is reason that Dr. Phil's team should have been pushing this video out. They should have been trying to get this thing out to everybody so that people can see it. Because I think it was very genuine. I think, sure, if you don't like Trump, you're still going to hate whatever he said. You're still going to translate whatever he said, however you want to translate it. But if you're willing to be a fair dealer and say, let me listen to him and give him a fair shot, you understood, and you probably can agree here with Breakfast Gun, that the dude does seem genuine. Like he does want our best interest at heart. Now, granted, you're going to have to deal with the fact that Trump and Dr. Phil gave you some very hard numbers that you could go back in time and verify. That's going to be problematic because you didn't hear that with Biden. They gave you numbers. This is what the gas prices were like. This is what the interest rates were like. This is how much a home costs. What you going to do with that? You're going to go back and look at that. Did he lie? You tell me. All right, let me see. I do remember when Oprah said she would run for president. I've heard people rumbling about that, not this most recent presidential cycle, but I've heard people talk about that recently. That they wanted Oprah to run for president. I don't know why. Like, what is your standard for you wanting Oprah to run for president? Same thing with Michelle Obama. Like, what's your standard for Michelle Obama running for president? Don't tell me about our current president. Don't tell me that we've hired movie actors before. Don't tell me that. I'm just asking, what is your standard today? What are you using as your barometer to say that Michelle Obama, that Oprah Winfrey, that this person should be president? What is your reason for that? Yeah, and I think retired, this is really the summation of President Not Perfect's comment before. They just want to scare people into believing that Trump has bought into this project, the 2025 project, knowing that he hasn't. And they just keep saying it. I mean, I wonder what if I say Biden has bought into the 2025 project? Then they'll think it's the best thing since sliced bread. So, yeah, I agree. Yeah, they're going to keep throwing stuff, but they can't help but get dirty. Do people still have gerbils as pets? I don't know where I got that from. Oh my gosh, all these gerbils in the thing. What's wrong with you people? I'm glad the gerbils love me. Okay, I'll have to do some thinking. I don't want to do the, what's the little axolotl, the little lizard thing? That's kind of cute. I don't want to say that. Okay, I got to find some other kind of animal to abuse next time we talk about it. Y'all are wild. Look at this one. Gerbils know to smash the like. Well, see, there we go. If gerbils smash the like button, there you go. No gerbils were hurt in the smashing of this like button. This was cathartic, Jason. This country is going in the wrong direction and we need a leader. Absolutely. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, I would only add to this, Kenya, and I always appreciate your comments. I would only add to it that we have to keep our faith in Christ, and it can't be even Trump. Trump could be the best thing cooking, okay? He could be the best. Biden could be the best thing cooking. We still can't put our faith and trust in man. I mean, come on. Solomon was the wisest man possible, the wisest man who ever lived, and he still fumbled the bag. David was a great leader, but he still fumbled the bag. So we can't. I think that's where we, even in this regard, now granted, we have no Solomon, no David example. Okay, we ain't even got a David Jenkins, okay? We don't have that as our example, but I think we should be mindful to not put all our faith and trust in man. All right, for sure, he wants all the credit. Hey, look, let him have his moment. Let him have his drum solo. I ain't mad at all. I ain't mad at all. I'm gonna let him have his drum solo, just like they will let Biden have his drum solo if he knew how to play the drums. Okay. Is that Missy in the building? Miss Mandy's in the house. Good to see you. Hey, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Appreciate you stopping by. Lots of good family reunion going on in the chat. What does Retired say about this? Trump is still of right mind and can still find Christianity. Absolutely. Look, absolutely. And I pray for Biden to find Christ as well. I pray that Biden gets out of office alive and that he safely is able to consider his life. Because can you imagine being in politics and all the slimy things that you've been a part of for 50 years? He's been in politics to some degree, shape, or form, 50 plus years. I mean, he's got to have seen some grime, and he's got to have been a part of some slime. And I mean, can you imagine like being that slimy, that grimy, that nasty, and somebody saying that you can come to Christ and be forgiven? I'd probably be like, man, you don't know all the stuff I've seen. And Biden has seen some junk. So has Trump. All of us have. And I think, Paula, I think we're using the term bragging. I'm using it tongue in cheek. I think Trump wants to say that he's done things. I don't think that's braggadocious as much as it's just he wants to accomplish things and wants to put those out there, and I'm fine with that. That would be my 2 cents. Watch this. If he goes ahead, you know what, Trump, I want you to go ahead and lower those gas prices. If you want to brag about the fact that gas prices are back sub $2, you know what, my guy, have at it. Because guess what, I got money now to drive, so I'm good. If you want to brag about lower interest rates on houses, have at it. Because now my house value is going up. I'm good. If you're going to say that you brought down the price of eggs, have at it. You know why? Because I can fix breakfast now. I'm good. If you go ahead and do what you do, what you say you're going to do, Trump, guess what? I'm going to let you brag about it. That's our agreement, Trump. I will vote for you if when you get in office, you fix these problems. If you do what you say you're going to do, I'm going to let you brag. I'll let you come on the show and you can brag here on the Dear Woke Christian Show. Absolutely. Oh, Terry asked how many subscribers. How many subscribers do we have? I don't know. I have to admit, my focus and goal has been on views. I'll tell you the truth. I'll give y'all a little behind the scenes conversation. Let me look real quick. Thank y'all so much for asking, though. I have 20,297 subscribers, and I appreciate each and every one of y'all. And I did say y'all because I'm in the South, and I appreciate each and every one of y'all. I just like views. I like when people watch the content. So if I have 20,000 views and each one of my videos gets 20,000, so if I have 20,000 subscribers and each one of my videos gets 20,000 views, that is amazing. I know I can't get 20,000 because some of those subscribers are my daughters and they refuse to watch my content. Y'all pray for the dynamic duo. I have no idea why that is, but they tell me they don't watch it on purpose. Okay. But, yeah, I like when people watch the stuff and comment because that lets me know that you're actually engaging and you appreciate what I'm doing. So that's my barometer, if you will. I love I'm glad to see the subscribers ticking up. I'll be happy when it hits 50. I'll be amazed when it hits 100,000. I'll put the 100,000 plaque back there, but I'll just be happy when all my videos are hitting a regular stream and people are really enjoying what I'm doing. That's what I'm shooting for. But let me keep this going and get you all up out of here. What does Mama Joe say? She said, Dr. Phil asked all the right questions to the point Trump gave him a question to ask him. It was a good conversation. I do. And again, like I told you, I wanted y'all to be able to see like a compare and contrast. This is a Trump interview, and then I want you to look at the Biden interview. Now, I'm hoping maybe Biden will do another interview with somebody where they can ask more policy, more those kind of questions. But sadly, it looks like that's going to be everybody's conversation for the next couple of weeks at least. You know, wasting questions, asking him about his health. We already know his health is rotten. We already know that. We can see it. But how about what's going on here in the United States? How about that? Why are you telling me about England? Why are you telling me about that? Notice also, Trump did talk about stuff that happened outside the United States. He talked about Venezuela. He talked about Ukraine. He talked about Russia. He talked about China, all that kind of stuff. But notice it's balanced. If you go back through and listen, his conversation about those countries outside of the United States, Mexico, outside of the United States, compared to how much he talked about inside the United States, there's a good balance of those. If you go back and listen to Biden, he talking about NATO and Prime Minister of England and all this other stuff, but very rarely does he say anything about the United States. Just something I thought I just picked up. All right, what does Kenya say? Kenya says Project 25 and Ice Cube's Black Plan are interest groups with their ideas that hope to be considered. Okay. I just, again, like I said, there's actually a video. It literally is right here. I could pull it up. Why don't we just do that? You know what? I'm going to pull this up because, again, I don't know all the ins and outs, all of the details of Project 2025. So I'm going to just, in a moment, we're going to cue it up and we'll go from there. How about that? Is that good enough? All right. What do we have here? Okay. I thought I heard, okay, Mama Joe's, I think I heard both of those stories. I heard him saying he would run, but I also believe I heard, and again, I could be wrong. I think I heard him say, I'm sorry, Oprah say that she would run, and I could be going crazy. Would not be the first time. All right. Oh, man, now y'all throwing gerbils in the chat? We got gerbils in the chat? Come on, y'all. Yo, do not get me, okay, Mama Joe's, do not get me started talking about the EBT awards. Do not do that. I'm not going to talk about the EBT awards. I'm not. I'm so disappointed in what is being pushed as Black entertainment television. It's gross. And the bad thing is that so many people have to dumb themselves down to accept this as Black culture that is deplorable. I'm like, wait, you don't live like that, but you lower yourself down to enjoy this type of filth, to wallow in the mire when you literally live in a different way. Why in the world did we even put up with this? And that awards program was completely ridiculous. Catch me outside if you have a difference of opinions. DearWokeC@gmail.com. But yeah, I said I wasn't going to talk about them because every year it's just a fool show. I'm like, yo, this is not us. This is not us. They can talk about what is that? They ain't like us. They ain't like us. I ain't like you. I don't even know who you are. So I hate BET and all that has become. I mean, if you're not familiar, it used to be called Black Entertainment Television. I call it EBT because it seems like they just a welfare program at this point. I mean, it's gross. Yeah, I don't mess with them at all, and I think they're totally a waste, and it does nothing for culture, society. So many of our cultures are so intertwined that one culture can't be cancerous, tumored, problematic, and the other ones not be negatively impacted because our cultures are so interwoven to one another. And I'm sorry, BET is the filth of Black culture, of anything that is of the highly melanated flavor. And the fact that they, perfect example, they honored O.J. Simpson this year. Please explain to me, tell me when it would be acceptable for the Hispanic version of O.J. Simpson to be honored at some Hispanic awards ceremony, or the Indian version of O.J. Simpson, or the white version of O.J. Simpson. Do they do that anywhere else? Please let me know. And so I'm so sick of BET. They can go kick all the rocks between here and Pluto. Knock yourselves out. Kick them twice, matter of fact, because I still won't care when you get done kicking all the rocks. Good to see you, Janelle. Good to see you. Yeah, absolutely. He will forgive us, Miss Mandy. Absolutely. I, whoever runs with Trump, I want them to have, yes, I do want them to be Christian. But what I also want them to do is I want them to have a very solid family life. That's why I like Vivek. I thought Vivek's family was adorable. And there's several people that are, several men that are in the orbit of vice president nominee that I would love. I think they represent what we need to see in society. Notice I didn't say in black culture or for black people, but I want them to see in society strong marriages. And I think that's what we need to make a hard turn toward and really push, not fronting on anybody who's had any other types of issues. But I think we can all agree that if we look at some of the blights of society, some of the things that really have gone left in society, we can point back to there's not a strong father figure in these people's lives, in these young men's lives, in these young women's lives. And I really want to see that. And I really believe if we see that in our VP, again, Trump, I mean, he's been married to his wife for a long time. He has a long litany of ex-wives. I got you. He's not perfect by any means. And I'm not saying that he's a stand-up model in that regard. That's why I say he picked somebody who is. That would be my 2 cents. All right. Maybe I heard it backwards. Paula said that Trump said if the country was bad enough, he would run for president. Maybe I did hear it backwards. And I'll accept that. I do want to point out, let's, bring back American oil. Like, where do you hear Biden talking about that? Do you ever hear Biden talking about, he wants to drill in the United States, wants us to have access to our own oil and energy independence? No, he's talking about we changing the weather. Now, I don't know where y'all are on that. I don't believe in global warming, global, whatever they're calling it this Tuesday. I don't believe in that. That's just me. Catch me outside, dearwokesy@gmail.com. All right. I do want to, you know what? We're going to go over this China. I've never seen somebody try to spell it like that. That is hilarious. And somewhere in the inner city, Prince, there's a child named after that. So you know it. And there's some child, and this is exactly how it's spelled too. Just look up China Jenkins. You know it. You know it's real. You know it's real. Okay, so let's talk about this. No, they're the dynamic duo. Well, one, let's be honest. Okay, President Firstborn she's still away at school. Chief Executive Secondborn is in there. I can hear her and her mom in the living room. So they're here. So it is what it is. All right. So we're going to do this. If y'all are okay with it, I have not finished watching this video. So this is going to be a first time reaction. These are 2 young ladies that are talking about the Project 2025. Again, I know very little about it, but I wanted to, since people have been trying to put this on Trump, I figured we'd at least check it out. I was going to do a reaction to it. But since it's already in my queue and I got it ready, if y'all want to, this is what we'll do. If you want to watch the Project 2025 video, put 2025 in the chat. There we go. That way we can drive up the engagement, and we can also see if y'all want to actually watch this thing. So I will get it ready while we do that. What are y'all thinking? Y'all want to watch this? All right. I appreciate it. All right, so Retired says, I'm thinking 3 people, Ben Carson, J.D. Vance, or my favorite, Byron Donalds. Definitely Donalds. I'm not really a big fan of Ben Carson, simply because I feel like he might have put his foot in his mouth a little bit during the Summer of Love. And I feel like he might be a liability. But again, I think Donalds has good bravado. I think he has great charisma. And I like him. So also Senator Hunt. Is it Hunt or Hunter? I think it's Hunt. I'm cool with him as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. This is the thing, though. This is the thing that the Democrats didn't do. See, the Republicans have a pretty deep bench We have quite a bit. If you're a Republican or conservative, y'all putting gerbils in the chat. What is wrong with you people? Why are you people like this? Who hurt you? Who hurt you? You tell me who hurt you, and we're going to talk to them. I said put 2025 in the chat. See, these people are following directions, and then we got these comedians right here. See, this is why we can't have nice things. This is why. Is it Tim Scott? Tim Scott's another one as well. So I think the thing is, Republicans have a pretty nice bench of really good players, if you will. And guess what? They're all pretty young too. Because if I'm not mistaken, Donalds is nowhere near 50. Okay, unless he's been dyeing that beard, he's nowhere near 50. Hunt, he shaves his beard, so we don't know. But a lot of them are very young. To me, that is very key. Because, yeah, and it's not based on identity. It's not based on, well, this person's a black man, that's why we've got them running. No. Are they capable, and do they convey a message, and are they able to articulate it? To me, I think that's far more important than whether or not they're highly melanated, less melanated. To me, that's the bigger issue. And I think that's where the Democrats put their toe in the crosshairs, so to speak, with Kamala. She's not able to convey messages. She's not. She's definitely filled to the brim with catchphrases and slogans and these short quibs, but not able to convey an idea. Show me a video of her conveying an idea, just one idea, take an idea and really conveying it clearly and articulating it with very clearly. Show me that. I'll wait. Let's go. All right. Now okay. So I think the 2025 project, it looks like most of y'all wanted it, but I wanted to talk about it. So let's go. Let's bring it in. Let's go.
And talking about this project 2025, I actually read it and I love it.
I do too.
I love it. It's all about freedom.
It's all about.
Yeah. And so he's trying to get rid of the American system of government. And that means getting rid of a government that does anything other than serve him. And that's what Project 2025 is all about.
Yeah.
And that exists everywhere in the world. And it has never existed here before. And so I really think the bottom line here is that Trump and his movement, they are not running against Democrats. They're running against democracy.
Yeah.
They're running against the democratic process. They want to radically change the kind of system that we have, the government that we have.
Yeah.
And
Show me. She can say that, articulate, and she sounds very clear. But please show me where Trump has actually said that. Again, like, I think this is adorable. Like, we could just roll out, Project Gerbil. And anybody that has a G in their name or a B or an L in their name are all supporting Project Gerbil. Where did you get that from? I just made it up. Just like these people are making it up. Trump is not supporting this program. But let's keep going.
we're alive as American citizens in that time, and we're going to be the ones who decide if the American system of government survives or if it's taken over instead by a strongman authoritarian form.
Right. And the left lies. They accuse the other side of what they actually are doing. Okay, I'm convinced that these people, they don't know the meaning or the implication of a dictatorship or totalitarian government or even a republic like we have in America. They don't know that. All they know is that this man that they hate, detest, Trump, is winning and will possibly win the presidency again in the United States. When Trump was in office, please somebody tell me, what act of dictatorship did he perform? Please tell me. The one thing I think that they may be afraid of is what he did was when he started reducing some of the federal regulations, because leftists love big government. So if you reduce the regulations, you reduce some of the agencies, then you're going to reduce their power, because to them, government is God. So that's the only thing I can think of. But they align like they always do. They don't know what they're talking about. They're trying to twist it to accuse the other side of doing exactly what they're doing.
But they were also talking about Project 2025. So as you guys, I don't know if you guys have seen or if you've heard, but a lot of leftist media now are using, they keep talking about this Project 2025 is the end of the world. You know, this is what conservatives are going to destroy the democracy and things like this with this Project 2025. And not only do they say that, but they've also been pushing this idea of the democracy. CNN pundit O'Sullivan, who is Irish, couldn't quite believe what he was hearing. He says, I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories. He was talking to Anderson Cooper in a segment. He says, I hear a lot of things out on the road, but to hear Americans, people who describe themselves as patriots, say that America is not a democracy, that stopped me in my tracks. Ann Applebaum, she's another CNN pundit, says she's a historian and writer for The Atlantic who often frets about the grave threats to democracy here and abroad, says to Anderson Cooper that this Republican talking point is just more misinformation. You were hearing people say America is not a democracy because they are people around Trump who want them to be saying that, who have planted that narrative.
I told you they're twisting or they don't know. America is not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. What is the difference? Democracy means that the majority rules no matter what. A republic gives proportionate representation to the states, the people, so that they can have a rule or a say, regardless of the size of their state or their county or whatever you want to be, whatever entity or polity it is. That's why it's called a republic. We have representative government. Are there in some aspects, maybe in some instances where the majority does rule? Yeah, maybe like your school board, you might, something like that, local politics. But we are a constitutional republic. We are built on democratic principles, but ultimately we are not a straight democracy. This is what they want. They want a straight democracy because they want mob rule no matter what. A straight democracy means that, again, no matter what happens, as long as 51% or more says yay, well then that becomes it. And damn the other 49, as if the other 49 is not significant. These people like to twist. Again, it's very simple. Just take apart what they're saying and then see how it really applies.
And I'll break it down even lower, even to a smaller way to say it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic on which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
right, with liberty and justice for all. It's a republic.
Right.
It's right there in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Right there.
I mean, it's not that hard. But you know what? Like you mentioned, they want control, and they've twisted everything to say it's the opposite when it's not. And talking about this Project 2025, I actually read it. I didn't read the whole thing, but I read a good portion of it, and I love it.
I do too.
I love it. It's all about freedom.
It's all about freedom. It's a policy paper, if you will, which every president, every administration has. It just depends on which policies you want to implement. But this is nothing more than the way to, if you will, I'm going to say envision, or maybe not even envision, but to get us back to what our government is supposed to do and not supposed to do.
And to the people.
Exactly.
Power to the people.
Exactly.
Is what it talks about. I mean, I won't go through Department of Education. It says they want to get rid of it. It has here, when power is exercised, it should empower students, families, not government.
Thank you.
In our pluralistic society, families and students should be free to choose from a diverse set of school options and learning environments. I mean, throughout the whole project, every pillar is about freedom. These people are lying to you.
Freedom, they're lying. Let's stay on the education for a minute because we're talking about, let's break it down for our audience. I'm not saying that you don't get it, but I want to break it down. You should be free. First of all, you should be free to choose education for your own children, how you want them to go or be taught, number one. Number two, you should be free to use your money to pay for your children to be educated however way you want to see fit, right? Your money should not be taken from you compulsorily and made to comply every year when you file your taxes, not to mention other taxes in between, where you have to pay for someone else's child or through student loans, pay their loans off off, so you can't even afford to choose where you want. And your schools are determined to you, particularly public schools, K through 12, just because of your zip code, while all these same elites can live in other zip codes and still make you pay for their children. Come on, people. Why does that make your boat float? It should make your boat, you should turn it over, flip it over, and start going through these temples and flip like Jesus did with the whips.
We know the boat is sunk. It is sinking and it's sunk in most of these communities that go along with this crap. I mean, but every pillar I read was about freedom. Department of Agriculture. It says American farmers efficiently and safely produce food to meet the needs of individuals around the globe. Because of innovation and resilience of the nation's farmers, American agriculture is a model for the world. Farmers are allowed to operate without unnecessary.
Okay, I'm going to stop for a hot second because I see a question that I want to answer. I don't want to put my head over hers like that. Sorry. Janelle asked the question, where can I get a copy of Project 2025? Janelle, you know we got the best moderators in all of the interweb. Down here in the link, Transplanted Texan has already dropped the link. There you go. You ask and we deliver. Thank you so much, Transplanted Texan, for managing that. So if you're interested in reading this project, I'm going to be looking at it as well. Maybe we'll come back and do another episode about it, maybe talk about it, because I'd love to hear what you all think. But the end of the day, though, Trump has not endorsed this project. So all of this hoopla, all this hand wringing and navel gazing is for naught, because Trump never said that he supported it. Just saying. Now, maybe there's aspects of it that are part of maybe what he was seeking to do, or just kind of like the fair tax example that I gave earlier tonight. Sure. But that doesn't mean that he was endorsing the whole project. But that was it. And also, I don't think the project is as bad as they're making it sound. But let's go.
Government intervention, American agriculture will continue to flourish. Again, they want to remove government. They want us to have more freedom, more individuality with Americans.
Exactly.
I mean, the whole thing.
Talk about farming too. Go look up the Denmark. I think it's in Denmark, where the government is mandating that the farmers will have to give up their property because of the cow farts. Really, because of climate change. So these people are going to lose their properties. They are trying to do the same thing in the United States of America. It's coming here, people. We have to wake up and push back. Stop being afraid of these jokers. We pay them. They work for us, and we don't need all of them. They're on holiday today. How many of y'all still have to go to work? I mean, come on. You're paying. How many holidays does Congress get? Do all these government agencies get? When we're paying them, we're working more than 6 months out of our year to pay their salaries, and then they tell us this, basically, with everything that they come out with.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. I mean, they go into HUD. I mean, it talks about how, these government assistance programs have not helped these communities, urban communities. It's done more harm than good.
Okay, another example, KJ, with HUD. Again, our taxpayer money is taken from us, used to build whatever they call them, low-income homes or homes for what they call them, unhoused people. All of this crap. They can live in hotels. They live in hotels where we may not even be able to afford, right? And they get SNAP money for it and other welfare, if you will. But yet, then they come back and want to control our houses. They want to tell us how we can turn our heat and air, or how many stoves or gas stoves or electric stoves can we have or not have. This is the more power we give them, the more they're going to use it against us. Who else they going to use it on?
Yeah. I mean, they specifically say on this HUD portion, they talk about how many of these programs have done nothing but penalize family formation in traditional two-parent marriages.
Absolutely.
It says here, fail to acknowledge that these public benefits too often have led to intergenerational poverty traps, have implicitly penalized family formation in traditional two-parent marriages.
Right.
I see nothing wrong with this. The left has been going on about this Project 2025 like this thing is a herpes.
Right.
I mean, it is nothing wrong with this. These are all very good policy initiatives. Right. And whether you agree with them or not, most of the pillars here are talking about getting government out of our business.
The bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. The smaller your house, the smaller your schools, the smaller your communities, the smaller your stoves are and refrigerators, the smaller our cars are. These are not the purview of government. I don't care who they think they are. Again, they work for us. People, the power belongs to us. We need more of us to start thinking and acting on this power and get these jokers out.
Absolutely.
I'm with that.
So, I mean, I encourage you all to take a look. I believe the website is
Project
2025.org, I believe. It's something like that, but you can, if you do a simple search on your search engine and put it in Project 2025, it'll come up. And I mean, it's definitely lengthy, but we are hearing, I know it's going to be coming up more and more as we get closer and closer to this election. They are going to start pushing out. I mean, they are throwing anything at the wall. I mean, we've talked about it throughout this hour, how they are trying every way they can to get people to vote for Biden. And it's getting ugly.
The poopeteers.
Yeah.
They probably might even want to throw his poop against the wall. I don't know. But we need to take our control
I didn't
back.
see that one coming.
Many people, when I think I tell KJ this a lot, when I hear anybody, I don't care who it is, say, we need more government. We need more government. I'm leery of people like that. I'm leery because most of the time they don't know what they're saying. They don't even know the implications. All they know is that they want the government to do something for them that they see other people getting the benefit of from government. Well, I say, damn it, that's my damn tax money. And I'm tired of funding everybody else's cause with my tax money.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So check them out. Pops and Politics. And again, I admit I'm going to start reading this Project 2025. But at the end of the day, I know that it's not something that Trump is endorsing, that I know. And please understand, more freedom in your hands, you as the individual, only a leftist, only a person who seeks control would be that upset about the fact that you having more control over your own life. That's the only kind of person that would be that upset. Why would I be upset if you had more control over, you had more options with school? And I'm a former school teacher. Why would I be concerned if you had more options in food and growing your food, or going to a grocery store, or a co-op, farmer's market, whatever, like a shared garden, community garden? Why would I be upset about that? Why would I be upset about you having the ability to travel freely, to live where you want to live? So I'm going to look at that. I think that's cool. That's kind of interesting. I appreciate person present, not perfect, for even bringing that up, because I wasn't going to talk about that primarily today, but I had something ready. So I appreciate him bringing that up. Thank you so much. Let's see what we got. Good to see you, Discernment Files. Always good to see you. Thank you so much. I thought this is super cool what you said here, Paula. Paula says, I homeschool my grandson for the past 3. I have homeschooled my grandson for the last 3 years. Super cool. I like it. Thank you so much, Paula. I agree with you, Grace. That is amazing. All right, let's see what we got. Making sure I said hello to all my good people. I like them. I mean, I haven't watched their channel. I did subscribe. I did make sure I subscribed. And I did text them and let them know that I just commented to them rather, and let them know that I just did a reaction to their video. So who knows? Maybe there'll be some new friends. I don't know. I'm always open for new friends. Always open for new friends. Yeah, like why would you not want to be able to allow me to control me as a parent? Because I always call parents the first teachers. Why would you not let me as a first teacher raise my child as I see fit? Why are you so concerned about that? Just something to think about. Hey, grace and peace, K-Dub. Good to see you, man. Thank you for stopping by. As I always say, fantastic content creator. He's been doing a great job looking at looking at sermons as well as theological things. So go check out Chris over at All Things Theology. You know you can drop your link in the chat, Chris. I appreciate you stopping by. K-12, it's a good program, nothing fancy. I feel like I missed something. feel like I missed something, but I'll let it slide. And thank you so much for dropping that link, Discernment Files. Thank you so much. All right, so James says, I just started listening to Popping Politics a few weeks ago on a sub. Now that I think it's not coming up in my feed like I think it should, make sure you hit notifications. That's the only thing I can think of. Or if you haven't engaged with the content, sometimes, like for example, if you were watching them, hard for, a month, but then you kind of eased off of clicking on it, YouTube might inadvertently stop showing you their content. So you'll still be subscribed. If you go under your subscription tab, it might show up, but you might not get notified. YouTube does a lot of things unilaterally. So that's just something to think about. But hopefully you'll check them out. Let them know. Hey, so you know what? Y'all go over to Pop in Politics, subscribe, tell them you like their stuff, and say, hey, you know this guy in Atlanta that likes to yell in his office, and he would probably love to have y'all come on or be able to come on and talk about various and sundry. Why don't y'all do that? Just kind of feed it out there to him. It'll be fun. But everybody, I want to thank y'all again. What do we have here? Make sure I didn't miss something. Oh, thank you, Transplant Text. And this is my video on how to make sure you get your notifications. YouTube is just doing whatever it wants to do. YouTube is going to YouTube. But this is a good way to make sure that you're getting your notifications. So thank you so much. I'll pin that up to the top too. It's up there at the top. So check that out just in case you haven't already gotten your notifications. All right, let me see. But y'all, I want to thank y'all again. Thank you so much to everybody who came by and watched the video. Thank you so much for commenting about the Trump Dr. Phil interview. Thank you so much for everybody that was commenting on this Project 2025. That's super cool. I do want to learn more about it and see what's really going on. Because if it's got Rachel Maddow all up in a tizzy, then it's probably something I want to learn more about. So, and I like how the young lady said it's a lot about freedom. And, I think that's definitely a good thing. And we'll see how it goes. How about that? Tomorrow is Tuesday. I'm going to drop my edit of my Biden interview from yesterday. So that'll be coming up tomorrow. So y'all can watch that if you would like to. I think we're supposed to be doing a live stream tomorrow. I'm going to double check. But if not, I'll definitely be back on Wednesday for sure. Again, hopefully everything's done in Taylor's room. So I think we got it all done. I just gotta go up there and kind of check it out. I got to put together a lamp and a chair for my wife. And then I think we're finished with that. Then we can start getting rid of all these boxes and all that kind of stuff because trash day's coming. But everybody, I want to thank y'all again. It really does mean a lot that y'all hang out with me. I appreciate you coming from the first minute all the way to the last, or just jumping in whenever you could. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being a part of the 20,293 people, 97 people that are subscribed to the channel. Everybody that watches it, I really, really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And I'm glad you're finding value in it. So let me know if you do have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints. You can always email management, dearwokec@gmail.com. Lord willing, we'll do this again tomorrow. So until then, everybody, thank you again. And until then, grace and peace. Take care. See you soon.